thing anyways.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, looks like we are live now.
Yes, we are.
We're going to hang around for another minute or so, and then I'm going to start.
Sure.
Okay, it's time to go live. I think we're already live. It's time to start talking. Hey,
Yes.
hey, Paul, we've got Paul. Hi, Paul. Paul sent out a hi. So, welcome back to the day 2 of the Eternal Return Unconference. My name is Shashi, and we had an awesome day 1, a lot of learnings, a lot of insights. Thank you to all the speakers who came and shared their time with us. Today, we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about, a lot of aspects around ancient wisdom. The way we've sort of curated this day is about focusing a lot on giving examples and cases and how you can sort of bring in ancient wisdom and sort of, apply it into the modern day business. As esoteric, this concept might be seeming like to a lot of people who might be listening to something like this for the first time. If you sort of hang around long enough in these sessions, you will know that this is not fiction or a story anymore, but it's actually concepts in action where people are actually implementing these things and bringing this out into the world. So me and my team are super excited in putting this together. We're called Sacred Startups. We did a small AMA on who we are and why are we doing this and things like that. If you did not get a chance to attend yesterday's session, you could always go back and watch those videos. If not, you can always drop some of these questions that you might have in the sort of comment section on your screen, and we will pick up some of these questions in between the break times and things like that. And then I'm going to do my best in answering some of those questions to you. Very broad sort of a context. Sacred Startups is a collective. We're sort of bringing in people who are interested in ventures that sort of make the human inner world a richer place through entrepreneurship specifically, to come in and sort of seek support, any kind of support that we are able to provide, whether it is a mentoring support, whether it is capital support and things like that. So we are still figuring out a lot of those pieces of how we're going to do that, but we are in the process and committed and doing it. And Eternal Return Unconference is one of the first things that we're putting out. With that, maybe some housekeeping things. Yeah. So listen, this is an unconference, right? So our recommendation is to engage as much as you can, ask whatever questions that you might have to us, and you can put those questions in the comment section, and we'll pick that up from there and then run it by the speakers. Meet, connect, sort of introduce yourself, talk about who you are and what are you doing and what brings you to this unconference. What is it that you're really looking forward to get out of this unconference? So we could sort of use some of these inputs in navigating these questions and conversations with these speakers that we are having, and hopefully deliver the value that we can deliver to you. So with that, I want to introduce us to Duygu Ozen. Duygu Ozen is a serial entrepreneur living out of New York, now currently talking to us from Turkey, somewhere close to Istanbul. Why did we get excited about Duygu's session is because he sort of has this beautiful story of discovering something that spoke to her so deeply, which sort of ended up becoming the core of her business right now, the kind of business that she's running and what she's trying to achieve from that business, and what she's sort of trying to bring to the world of marketing to begin with, because a lot of her work is around marketing. Currently, she's the founder, of v7.ai. She's been in media. She's been in marketing and advertising agencies. She's worked with hundreds of brands, conscious and unconscious, in the past, and helped a lot of these brands succeed and get across their messages to their customers. So Duygu, I'm really excited because we have so many questions, especially marketing related questions. because when we started putting some of our messaging out into the world, obviously just putting things out were not enough, right? So we had to sort of get them across to people, because we quickly realized that the algorithm is not any more pro organic communication to the community. You have to sort of put some money behind some of these communication and reach out to the audiences that you want to reach out to. While we wanted to do that, which we did, but some of the roadblocks that we started facing was about, how do we find these audiences, what are their interest areas,
True.
how do you sort of which sort of geographic location are they sitting in, and so many of these questions. Because the kind of concept that we're talking about in general is such a scattered community. They're so all over the place, and it is so hard to sort of put them into one location or one geographic location, right? So that's sort of when we realized, oh my god, marketing is a huge piece to figure out in this journey of building something for conscious entrepreneurs. How are we going to be able to figure this out? Because we realize that a lot of products and companies and entrepreneurs are coming up who are now building things, like I said, for the human inner world. But how do these people end up creating marketing campaigns? How much money do they really spend before they start finding the right kind of audiences and things like that? And that's around the time, I think, when we got introduced or when we got connected, and I said, this is perfect. The divine flow, if you may call it,
Awesome.
had those sort of nudges that was appropriately positioned. So just to sort of set the context of this conversation, what is it that we really want to achieve from this conversation, right? Imagine a bunch of entrepreneurs, who are in their early stages of thinking of a product, or have already built a product or a service, whether it could be a wellness related brand, or whether it could be somebody who's running, a coaching sort of a practice, or somebody who's into helping other entrepreneurs sort of shift from running business in maybe not a very conscious way to sort of now moving more to a conscious way. What are the kind of things that might help them make decisions better, faster and better? What kind of insights might sort of help them in looking at their own work in a different way, looking at communication in a different way, and and how do they go about executing some of these things? I know this is a lot of stuff. We have sort of packing and loading a lot of these questions into the 1 hour that we have, but we'll do our best in whatever we can. Yeah.
True.
You up? You up for this
Absolutely.
challenge? All right, cool. Okay, listen, let me ask you, how are you doing?
All good. I
All
feel
good?
good. Absolutely. As you mentioned, I am in Turkey right now with my family, but going back very soon to New York. And things are going well. And thank you
Nice,
so
nice.
much for this beautiful invitation.
It's amazing to have you here, and thank you so much for accepting to be here with us. Let me start by asking, what are you doing? What are you trying to do? I know you're doing a bunch of stuff. I know broadly what you're
True.
doing, but I would love to hear from you, from your own words. Also, for the benefit of the audiences who might be watching this, what are you doing?
Really great starting. Thank you. Um, when I look to my back, I think it is for all of us, we understand our life journey to connecting the dots, how we started, what we are doing in the 10 years ago, 5 years ago. In my journey, and last year, suddenly I realized something about my life. Every time as an entrepreneur, I focus so much to creating the values, or I focus to mission through my businesses, because I am entrepreneur, I have a marketing background, but it never conceptualized for me, why I have this feeling. And I was part of the some conscious leaders communities. But last year I realized that all these experience, my educations, that projects, challenges, even the most tough, difficult days brought me today what I am doing. It was a beautiful realization for me. And what I am doing, I am on this journey, creating awareness about conscious business, which is related to conscious marketing. Today, we will unfold more about this subject. And behind this conscious marketing concept, there's of course, it derives by intention, and it derives by to leaders' mission and vision. I am here today to share more how we are doing this. I have two different concepts to running this mission. One of them is our technology, which is leveraged by the artificial intelligence. The other part is our consultation program, and both of them name is V7. This is how I can summarize.
So what does V7 do? I mean, give us an idea of who are the kind of people who V7 serves. When do they come? Why do they come to you? What do you do to them?
Last year, I was in the translation process in my life. And then as a marketer, we did many things. And I work some agencies. I had my agency. I work many companies. And I am a data analyst. But last year, I realized something about the marketing. Marketing can be conscious. It means that we don't have to use fear to convince the people to buy something. Or, there is so much manipulation under the marketing. But if we use the marketing as a tool, actually, it is really powerful to convince the people something good. Until last year, I started to writing about, how we can transform the marketing to be more conscious. And we call the V7. V7 has 7 different modules, and per module has different type of questions. And this part of the questions tapping into leaders' heart to understand their mission, vision, and the part of questions related to their business to understand their market, service, or product. And V7 bring together and aligning that business to mission, and then creating the conscious marketing plans. But there are 2 different dimensions too as well, and one of them is sustainable development goals, the other part of inner development goals. And why we are focusing the sustainable development goals? Because there are already 17 different problems in the world, which is defined by the United Nations. And as a leader, I can use my company as a container with my service or product to fix the something. And it's a beautiful opportunity to bring my mission as a leader with my values, aligned to SDG, and the other dimension is to using into my marketing without any greenwashing.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I can unfold. Yes.
What is greenwashing?
Oh my God, there are actually many companies are doing too. I think there are people, we create stories, isn't it? There are many stories about our product, business, ourselves. But if those stories are not aligning with my action, that's the greenwashing.
I was, pretty excited and at the same time inspired when I came across the inner development goals, and I felt like it was a beautifully done, marketing campaign, no doubt. But at the same time, it was such a simple framework that has now been turned into such a huge organization. So, people who are watching this, wondering what inner development goals is, simply put, we all have the sustainable development goals that UN came up with, and we've all been sort of working. A lot of impact organizations have been working in trying to meet some of these goals of the sustainable development goals that has been set up by UN. But then some entrepreneurs and some philanthropists in Europe realized that sustainability is not possible as long as there is inner transformation. Because, for example, you talk about a bunch of things that you should not do in terms of, let's say, you're running a household, the way you deal with trash, the way you deal with plastic, the way you consume things on your daily basis. There is a lot of preaching that happens from organizations as to what you should not be doing, which comes as a rule. And society in general has a lot of resistance to, rules. Society has a lot of resistance to government telling them what to do, what not to do, because we are all sort of believe that we're living in free world and liberty and free will and all of those kind of great things. So how do you sort of get across to people when there is so much resistance to change, and when change for good is unfortunately misinterpreted as social conditioning, right, for some propaganda or the other, right? So somebody smartly realized that instead of trying to sort of tell world what to do, let's try and sort of help them transform themselves from the inside out, because once when you transform yourself from the inside out, that is what we sort of call as the heightened states of consciousness. You automatically make changes, you automatically sort of end up driving those changes in the choices that you make, in the kind of things that you want to work on, and the way you want to live, and all of those kind of things. So Inner Development Goal is an organization based out of Sweden, which is sort of focusing on doing a lot of inner development goal kind of stuff in Europe. But the thing that sort of makes me feel that inner development goal is a bit of an incomplete agenda is because a lot of the inner development goal is built on the psychological principles, right? Psychological principles are mostly towards behavior and mind, and how do you sort of change that and things like that. While it's very efficient, no doubt, I don't feel like it is completely holistic. And 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 I don't know how much we're going to be able to do this, but our effort here is to try and sort of bring in the ancient wisdom concepts and into this context, so that not only is the inner development happens from your mind perspective, but it also happens from your soul perspective, from your heart perspective, and
Correct.
so on and so forth. So yeah, I love this organization, and I someday hope to sort of go and catch up with them, and somehow partner up or talk to them, and things like that. If somebody is from there, please reach out to us. um so now talk to us about your unique approach, right? You have some very interesting approach that you have sort of made that as a core of your offerings in the V7, right?
Correct.
Your entire outlook towards every problem that you solve for these companies comes through that internal framework, that framework that you've seen. And I from broadly what I've understood, that framework is very ancient, that framework is very strong. There's a lot of literature, there's a lot of work that has gone into understanding and at the same time talking about that framework. I want you to sort of walk us through what that framework is. And if you can, if it is not too personal, I also would love for you to sort of tell us how exactly, in the moment in the story, at a time when this really clicked in and you said, this is what I want to do.
Absolutely. Um, there's an experience I was going through in 2022, and it was really challenging times for me. And one night I was walking in the New York, and that night suddenly there's some whispering or something awareness, I don't know. But I thought this: we are not separated. What we are doing, or we are not separated from the other people. There is no bad, there is no good. There's just a we. And after that, how I set up my first consultation company, the V Media. The principal was under that company that moment. I couldn't see any separation. I just see the wholeness with myself. Even there was a pain, even there was some thoughts, but at the same time, I felt so much love. And this is how it happened. And I would love to mention about inner development goals, why we are implementing their actually frameworks. The most important part for us, IDG, and they focus to leaders' inner world, because as a leader, if I starting my healing journey, my traumas, if I have high awareness about myself, and I can bring the light into light my companies. It's the reason they focus to inner world to outer impact. It was so aligned to our mission too, and we decided to using their frameworks as well. And it was the first motto for us, inner work to outer impact. And V7 actually per module aligned per chakra, and I work with some experts, of course, spiritual leaders about that. And for example, we're starting the purpose, but the purpose, what does it mean to healing the root chakra? And this is how we align it. When I talk about it like this, usually who is focusing so much left brain, they are thinking, okay, but what will happen to my company growth? What will happen conversion rate? What if I spend so much money for digital marketing and if there is no return investment? Still there is a return investment, but we are focusing to long-term growth. We are never giving up to numbers, but we are giving the meaning that numbers, or we are transforming the per campaign or per marketing strategy with V7.
So walk us through, how do you bring in this chakra idea into marketing? I mean, I sort of have an idea of maybe how you're doing it, but I would still want you to tell us, where is the connection?
Mhm.
How
The
do you bring the
connection is
connection?
the connection is again, it's related to my healing journey, because if we are having a flow through our chakras, we feel more aligned into our hearts. And then it's starting to my actually chakra healing journey. And this is how it's aligning. And it is not separated to actually business. This is what we discovered during that times. For example, our first step under the V7, it's starting to purpose. And if you wanna find my purpose, it's related to our root chakra. And when we look to my business purpose, actually it is related to my business or my product. There is so many things aligning. It is not different to ancient wisdom to what I am talking about, the business. It is so all together. And it's the reason we just need a paradigm shift, how we look to things and how we are creating that actions through our businesses.
Beautiful. So, one of the things, especially when you're on the path of consciousness, right? There is this belief system that you attract things. You don't go after. You don't go chasing something. You look for flow. You look to see how things come to you, and then you sort of double down on all of those directions. If you're sort of building a conscious brand, and when you're building out of these sort of fundamental values within yourself, and let's say, for example, that is extended into your company as well, from a marketing perspective, how does one balance between not going after something but actually building a marketing strategy in such a way that you're attracting something towards you? Is that even a possibility?
I have a great example about that. And last year, I started this consultation, which called V7. And this year, after having that great feedbacks, this year I decided to supporting this concept with artificial intelligence. It was an idea. And then I shared a few people. In a month, suddenly and I shared the mission, why I am doing, what is my mission. I didn't talk about the numbers, how I will make this company grow, how I will get the investment. There is no this conversation. I was just sharing to my mission and why I am doing, what is my purpose. And suddenly there is a two developers, designer, and who is supporting us as an advisor board. And I starting to talk with the investor. I didn't chase anything. I didn't post any job posting. I am looking for CTO, or I didn't do anything. Just I shared a few people what I am doing, and that we recommended other people. And in 2 months, we have an MVP right now. We created that project. Why I am mentioning this story, because this is my sixth startup, as I remember. And every time I chase the people, I try to find the CTO, I try to find to, build up to my advisor boards. I sent so many emails to investors, but this time the story transformed. I was just sharing to my mission and the purpose, and people are coming together to support to this project. This is the same method, the same principle for conscious marketing too. And we are not chasing, we are just learning how we are finding ourselves, and we are learning with conscious marketing how we are expressing that mission and the vision. Of course, still, as every time I want to mention this part, traditional marketing has data science, data analysis, there's a science and other things too. We still We have to know that, of course, because we will share articles. And right now we are using these platforms, StreamYard, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Still, there are these technologies for marketing. We are using it, but we are learning to how we can transform, having a paradigm shift to using these platforms in a conscious way for marketing. We don't try to
So
sell. Yeah.
this is always a challenge, when to sort of stop selling, or when to, to even have a sales mentality at all in your organization or not. Okay, let's see what questions we might have here. Paul is asking, what is MVP? Paul, MVP is what is called as a minimum viable product. Let us say, for example, if you want to build a particular company, a particular product, what people generally recommend you do is, instead of going out and building an entire product, take the most important aspects of the product that could end up solving a few problems. Okay, Paul is saying, I know. All right. But the 7F MVP. So Paul is asking, what is the 7F MVP? What is 7F, Paul? If you can be a bit more clear about what 7F is, then we can sort of try and see if we can take that question. What are the questions? Listen, if you guys have any more questions, please drop it in the comment section. We can pass it on to Duygu and get her to answer it. Okay, we will wait for Paul to respond.
Sure. Mhm. And
Yeah.
in the meantime, maybe I can share, right now we are talking about conscious marketing, and there are other things, regenerative marketing or sustainable marketing. But whatever we are talking, it's a time we have to change our perception about the marketing. And there are so many ways we can do that. And one way is RV7. The other things, especially after the pandemic, we see so many paradigm shifts, as you know. And right now, the consumers, especially new generations, wants to see companies to be more impactful. Before focusing the profit, let's focus the purpose as well. And the solution there are, and the companies have two different dimensions. One of them is innovation, the other one is marketing. And as an entrepreneur, I see the companies as a container, and whatever we put on this container, we are spreading it. And this is the time to put on that container love, compassion, and empathy. And we have to talk about it. It's the reason Sacred Startups, I think that's a beautiful example right now, how the world is changing. And we are talking about the chakras and marketing, bringing together ancient wisdom and all this conversation here. I think this is a great time. Yes, I want to
That's absolutely true, and I think that's one of the things that we are here to try and test out, right? Because this is a voice that is coming from the inside to us as well, to say, hey, this is where things are going, and I think a lot of people are headed in this direction, and they all sort of need a space where they can come and connect with each other. Now we are out here to sort of test that voice, to put something out there. There's no better way to test the voice but by putting things out there and see if people get attracted to it, right? So
right.
I hope, the thing is, I sort of have been involved in the couple of generations of internet, and how internet has been sort of shaping how we live and what kind of innovation we see and what kind of commerce is possible, what kind of innovation is possible on the internet. Some of the things that I sort of experienced in my life while I was actively working on this was when there was cloud economy, there was mobile commerce, there was sharing economy, there was a gig economy, there was hyper local commerce economy. There were so many of these micro economies that got created during the last 15 odd years, right? A lot of these things obviously came from Silicon Valley and through organizations like Y Combinator, has now grown into become billions and billions of dollars of worth in market size and in market share. And what sort of baffles me is that when we were all actively working on some of these things, we were dropping all of these jargons, and people were dropping all of these jargons, but nobody really imagined that we would come to a point in this world where these things are approximately a few $100 billion in market size and in opportunity, right? So our effort is that if there can be an economy to help people deliver stuff to your doorstep,
True.
right? Can there be a micro economy? There can be a small economy that is focused on only helping people, heighten their own consciousness levels. And I know that there's a lot of people who are doing a lot of different things around this. And our effort is to sort of test these hypotheses out, put these ideas out there and see, hey, is this even possible or not? And some sort of that is what we are trying to explore from some of the work that we are doing. And I'm glad that we are connecting, because these kind of connections will truly actually make this thing a possibility.
Absolutely.
All right, so now let's imagine that I am building some kind of a functional mushroom product. Right? I'm an entrepreneur who believes that by using some of these, I can help address some of these mental health challenges that the world is facing. There are people out there who sort of know about the benefits of functional mushrooms, but there are a lot more people in the world who may not. Right? Now, as an entrepreneur, I have to make a decision when I'm sort of developing my marketing campaign. That do I go on the traditional sales approach towards these are the 5 reasons why you should buy my product, and then maybe even alter some of those, greenwashing, as you said, and deliver those products to make a sale? Or should I take the hard path in talking about the culture, the evolution, the tribe, the belief system, all of the things that has led people to discover the benefits of functional mushrooms, and for me to be able to build that product in order to save someone's life, let's say in this case. If I were to choose the latter, to do it the hard way, what would you recommend me, or what would you advise me as a marketing brain on how I should do it? What should I keep in mind? Just sort of think of it, me coming to you for consultation. I have this product. Duygu, now help me. How should I sell it? How would you engage
Yes.
with me? What should I do?
Thank you. Thank you for asking this question. It will unfold so many things actually. Um, our our methodology have questions. Like you are asking me question, I am sharing more and more. It's a reason questions are so important to understand the leaders and companies. And we have questions under our modules, under the V7 actually. First of all, I will start with these questions to understand you as a person. You ask me my story, for example, and I will start to understand your intention and as a person to mission, because we are like artists. Whatever we are doing, there is something about that why we are doing, and I will try to understand that why. The other part is to conscious marketing. There are 2 different dynamics. One of them is conscious marketing focusing to communities rather than the mass communication. And I will try to understand your product production process. For example, maybe you are using some material which is providing another benefit for the planet Earth, for the climate change, I don't know. And we will define together that part, which SDG we are supporting. Yes, your product already have so many benefits for the people, but at the same time, as a company, you have other things too. I believe you can provide that goodness for the world. And we will find out together that part. And the second step, we will talk about marketing. And we are still talking about marketing. For example, how much we will spend monthly, but the channel maybe will be different than the traditional marketing. We will just focus to maybe LinkedIn, and you will publish an article about your benefit. It's not a greenwashing. This is all true stories. And we will promote that article through LinkedIn with that communities. For example, you are supporting SDG 9, Sustainable Development 9, which is, I think, innovation and technology parts under the SDG. This is how it's working, conscious marketing, focusing you as a leader and your culture in the company. And we are finding out how we are integrated through channels into marketing. We are using different type of keywords, for example. that keywords won't focus just selling, but that keywords who is searching how I can heal my mental health, or like this. Or we will write articles, most will educate what is the inner healing or inner child healing. I don't know. But it is all around we will create stories around this mission and the vision.
Interesting. So, I've always been wanting to ask someone this question. There is obviously, I don't know, either maybe I'm confused or there may be a further sort of, refinement of the concept that might need to happen. It could happen over time. There is obviously the conscious way of doing things, right? And then there is doing things for consciousness, right? So now let us say, famously or rather traditionally speaking, a lot of people are talking about, okay, when they think about conscious doing, running a conscious business or running a conscious venture or whatever it is, it's mostly sort of focused around nature in mind, right? How do we sort of do good so that it's in alignment with the earth, with nature, with what Mother Earth wants to basically support, and so on and so forth. And then obviously there is a component of how am I taking care of my people, how honest and authentic am I in communicating to my users and consumers and things like that. Could sort of fall under the umbrella of conscious way of doing things. Now, doing things for consciousness, right, which is the second thing that sort of we are interested in focusing on, that is people who are building, let us say, wearable technology to alter the state of consciousness, right? Or people who are now talking about building a lot of healing, technologies and tools that helps people, get rid of their mental health challenges, maybe not completely, but at least to a certain extent. Or let's say, for example, you're talking about psychedelic therapies, famously sort of, talked about, which is obviously used for altering states of consciousness, but also at the same time now being used for a lot of medical reasons, especially mental health challenges. Then you've got companies like Ayurveda, which is bringing in a lot of traditional wisdom in order to make your inner world, function in a harmonious way. While you're going down, let's say, for example, building something for consciousness, there is an element of understanding that you need to have about how your inner world functions, right? What is it that your inner world is responding to? How are these sensations that are being created? What these sensations mean? What these sensations sort of stirring up, what kind of emotions, and so on and so forth. I'm sort of trying to connect these dots, or at least instead of trying to connect the dot, let me sort of leave it at this and ask you a question in terms of what are your views on building something for consciousness, and how and what kind of role does marketing play in this?
I think the most important part to seeing there are differences between unconscious business to conscious business. I think there are two acts. I did two in my life. If I look to world and what world wants, if I am acting through that, somehow it is not correct. But if I look my inside and acting through that, it is creating more positive things. I think there's the huge differences when we look. We were on that trap. I was there too, because it is not authentic, it is inauthentic act, because I am so focusing how people will perceive me or my business, my product, whatever. But if I just focusing to my business, myself, and then to my business, what is the correct things I need to do through my business, it is giving me way to acting consciously.
True, absolutely. And I still feel like there is a lot of work that needs to be done. And one of the things that we're trying to do, including the session that sort of comes after yours, is taking one of those ancient wisdoms that has come out of India, which is basically the theater arts. The theater arts deals with a lot of emotions, with a lot of expressions, a lot of understanding. And also it talks a lot about how you feel these emotions and how you express them so that the audience also are with you on those emotions in that journey, right? So using some of those principles in marketing and communication, communicating by understanding your own emotions and your own sentiments, and believing that there are more people out there who also feel like me, who are also going through a similar pain like me, and being able to build something out of that pain, out of that realization, and expressing that in an efficient way through communication and marketing language, I think could be a beautiful way of also adding another layer of interesting dimension in marketing and communication, I think. You are you're juggling with things like, inner development goals and chakra based marketing frameworks, and you're building AI. You're sitting in a place like New York, you come from a place like Turkey. You've got a lot of these different things that you've brought together and turned this into a beautiful journey of yours. My question to you is about the market acceptance of something like this. Now you're obviously sitting in one of the most hottest cities in the world, which is New
True.
York City. New York City, famously known, as money speaks, and city never sleeps, and all of those kind of things. What has been your experience now taking something like this to the customers or to the market, and how has been their acceptance? What kind of sales difficulties are you facing? Walk us through it.
Yeah, last year, I think on February, I completed my website. I was so sure about the V7, and okay, I thought, what is my next step? I organized an event with Duyart in New York, and that event first time used the conscious marketing event. I didn't expect actually how many people will join, but it was so successful. It was 45 people was there, and we have three speakers talking about the conscious marketing. The one of them is my friend, and I supported her business with conscious marketing principles as well. And we started talking about the chakras marketing. It was the first time publicly I was talking about that. But in that time, I didn't know there is a press from United Nations. And then after the event, I got unbelievable positive feedbacks. It's a reason, it's pushed me more to continue. Even at that time, very honest, I had really challenging times in my private life, but somehow I pushed myself to continue. Anyway, I was invited to UN. I was there, and they were interviewing with me. But I am doing SDG, chakra, and marketing there together. Again, the feedback was amazing. I think the people are right now in a stage that feedbacks to, they don't like this marketing because this is fear based. It was making us less, if you don't use this product, you won't be beautiful, or if you don't do this, you won't be successful. The definition of successful is changing, as you know. What is success? Every people are asking right now, all the platforms, because it is changing. I think it was on time to talk about what is the conscious marketing. I have, but after talking with companies leaders, of course, the huge challenge for me is what will about our cost per click, what will about our return on investment. It is changing because end of the day they have to stay in profit. I can understand. I have a company too, but when and after that, because it was my insight in that time about the conscious marketing, but my left brain told me, okay, find the numbers. I believe there are companies who are already using conscious marketing principles, of course, and Chobani, Patagonia. Um, there are few companies too. They were already using conscious marketing. There is no any conceptualize about it. And I found a writer who is writing the book about conscious marketing. And then in that time, I realized, okay, this is already happening. Actually, I am not alone, and there are proof in the companies who are using that. There are writers or professors who is talking about that. And right now it is the time. There's a, I think, in a few years later, even we don't call the marketing, it will be something different. The other challenge was, the technologies are unconscious. So meta
Absolutely.
advertisement, there are algorithms that are unconscious. They are focusing how much click they need. They want to earn money, as we are product for that technologies. I know, but step by step. This is the first step, creating this awareness around the conscious marketing, because there are still things to do. We can do that instead of the traditional marketing. And second step, with especially with AI, artificial intelligence, that technology is starting changing too.
Okay, I want to sort of double click on the AI thing. Before I go there, I want to see if there are any questions from the audience that we can take. Ta-da. Okay. So, yeah, how do we design marketing campaigns to focus our story on specific chakra of people? That's a good question, right? So, let me sort of extrapolate on that question a bit. Let us say that, I'm a manufacturer of cell phones. Cell phones generally very futuristic, very forward looking, very sort of connecting the world together, and all of that sort of ability to jump between geographical locations. All of those beautiful things are what a cell phone can do, right? And if you were to sort of look at some of these features, and then when you were to sort of map it down to some of the chakras that you have, it sort of directly speaks to your third eye chakra, which is basically called the Agna chakra, right? Now, how do you build a marketing campaign that is now speaking to your third eye as a product?
Okay. This part is so technical, actually. The chakra part is usually we use in the beginning, but if you talk about this part, it is more technical than the beginning, because in this time we have to talk about the marketing funnels, how we are creating our funnels to pull the people in to buy something from our companies. And that funnels, usually we are creating special pages on the website. One of our clients, actually, the house, they are in the digital theater industry. And that page is sharing, expressing how your product, creating something different for the world or for their customers. The funnel, it will be important. You have your landing page, and you are using the LinkedIn, your content, maybe the white paper, you are having their email address, and after that, you are sending another email to them, giving to benefits. It is not easy to express this part because really it's so technical, but you focus to creating conscious marketing funnel in that time.
I like the fact that you always take some of my, very 40,000 level philosophical questions and bring that down to functional, operational stuff. Because I think while marketing gives you this freedom to go dream big and think as crazy as you can, but at the end of the day, some of it needs to be supported with execution. Some of it needs to be supported with technological tools
Absolutely.
that you're talking about. The ecosystem needs to be ripe enough to support some of these ideas. But my own personal journey when I was going through the research for this, what we are doing right now, and through my own sort of time off to heal myself and to understand my own sort of self a lot more, I spent a lot of time with chakra psychology. Because it's a very personal story which I don't mind sharing actually with people. I was sitting in a Tibetan sound healing kind of a session, and then I was given a Tibetan bowl in my hand, and then they struck the bowl, and then I put it in front of my heart chakra, and then I could really feel there was a conversation going on between this bowl and this heart chakra. Till then, I really not gotten so deep into understanding what a chakra is, how it reacts and responds and things like that. And then I was like very intrigued to understand what is this thing and why is this thing talking to me in a very different way, which I think I've never felt before. And then I went back again after a couple of days for another session. And then in that, when I was holding a similar bowl in my hand, and I was sort of again going through that experience, and then it felt like I was holding like 1,000 kilos in my hand. And obviously it was not 1,000 kilos, but it made me feel like I was holding 1,000 kilos, and it was just a bowl. And I was so intrigued by the idea of how can this form just change the way it feels and how it weighs just by me holding it and the way I'm interacting with it. And I sort of really put a huge question mark in my system, and then I just couldn't stop. And that sort of was the initiation into the rabbit hole, which I am in right now. It's sort of all of these is basically coming from that one incident. And I have been deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into trying to understand what's going on. And then I sort of came across the concept of chakra psychology, and how different chakras has its own psychology, is where sort of the psychological construct of the Western society and the ancient wisdom of the Eastern society sort of came together for me. And I was sort of super, like blown by what I was actually experiencing at that time. And since then, I've been thinking about, how am I going to practically apply something like this? How am I going to be able to use it on a daily basis? And sort of that led to all of these experiences and experimentation that we are doing, which is to say, how can we integrate some of these things, right? Like, say, for example, if I'm trying to build a dating app, right? A conscious dating app, not the one that we have today, which is all about the matter of the heart. It's all about trying to sort of help you find love, help you find partners, and all of these things. Now, right now, if you look at the way these dating apps are being designed and built, it's such a transactional thing where you keep on sort of doing some
So true.
behavior which is right or left, and then you keep banging on people that you sort of like, and then it's all very superficial, very fine tuned to one sort of sensory input. So some of the conversations that I'm having with some of the innovators here is, how do we draw principles from understanding the heart chakra and marry it in designing a modern day app that helps you find love based on understanding of how the heart functions, how
So
the
true.
heart responds, right? Not how your eyes responds, or maybe other
Mhm.
parts of your body responds to, right? So these are some
Mhm.
of the things that we're playing around with, and let's see what comes out of it. I mean, I was sort of I wanted to share this because this is a great opportunity for us to not only share how-tos with the people who are listening, but also send in a couple of ideas and inspiration to look at things in a different and a new way, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, I was so compelled to sort of let's see if there are any more questions that we can take. Somebody's asking me, what is Chobani?
Um, they're a huge yogurt company in United States. The founder is actually Turkish, Hamdi Ulukaya. Uh, he has an amazing story. I recommend it to everybody. Watch his talk actually under the YouTube or TED.com. He's really inspiring stories, and he focused so much conscious business. It means that whatever he has a profit, he's already sharing so many people and communities to support them, their education, their food needs, and whatever they need. And he's a great leader for me too. I met in person with him too. And Choban is a yogurt company in United States.
Nice. I mean, I know I've heard a lot of things about Chobani. I think it's one of the fastest growing consumer
It's true.
products company in the US, right? And it's
Mhm.
also modeled around companies like Patagonia, which is doing a lot of good work in the society. Whole Foods, when it was pre-Amazon
Yes.
days. Yeah. Okay, now we come back to AI, right? The elephant in the room. So what are you how are you seeing AI in all of this? How do you see AI, conscious, and marketing? How are you sort of
Mhm.
seeing all of these things, and how are they manifesting, how are they coming together? Try to sort of give us a use case, if you can share from your
Mhm.
experience, to make the story as real and as sort of tangible as possible.
Yes, sure. Right now, we are still searching and talking with AI engineers and the people to about our first product launch almost 2 months ago. And I believe a artificial intelligence here for good is an amazing tool. If we use that tool with good intentions, it can create many things for many industries. But the marketing perspective, it will be huge player to transforming the marketing more conscious. How? Our first step is to bring together all this wisdom to SDG, IDG, and conscious marketing principles, and to showing the companies, to startups, how they can create conscious marketing plan. This is the first step, actually. Right now, we are serving under the V7 AI. And the other part is AI will provide us to which part is correct to use for my product or businesses as a purpose or mission to implement into my marketing. The other part is data analyze. And right now we are using the traditional data analyze tools. It is giving the some numbers and giving the recommendation through that numbers. But with AI, there are still data analyze, but it is combining with my company's mission and values or SDG reports, and then creating my marketing strategies or giving the recommendation through that data. There are many benefits we see, but we are still working with people, and very soon we will announce and we will collaborate a university in New York, and we will create some focus group and focusing just this part, creating this technology more advanced.
Thank you. Awesome. So I think sort of that brings us to the end of this conversation, Duygu. Is there anything that you would like to ask us, share with us, or shout out? If there anything that we can use this platform to help you do you better?
Conscious marketing is not a trend, or it is not like a story. It is real. It's already happening. And if we are today here, there's a reason, and because we all believe the ancient wisdom to implement into our life, into our business. I believe so many companies, entrepreneurs will focus to this part more to use our businesses for good. And thank you for this session. It was so meaningful. Thank you for everybody.
All the best to you as well, and then hope you continue to interact with the Sacred Startups family as we go along, and safe travels back to New York.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Ciao.
Bye.
All right, that was Duygu. I'm going to bring in the next speaker, Upasana. There you are. You're on stage now. You can turn your camera on. Ha, how are you? I think you're on mute. Are you? No.
Yes, actually, I'm here.
How are you?
Hello. Namaste.
Namaste. How are you?
Very
You're sounding
well.
a bit distant. Check if you're... Yeah, you are sounding a bit distant.
Okay, I don't know.
This is better.
Is it better now?
Yeah,
Yep.
better now. It's better now. Awesome. So yeah, how are you? How are things? Where are you calling or where are you talking to us from? Are you still in Bombay?
I am. I'm in Mumbai, yeah.
No. So this is the second speaker of the day. Her name is Upasana Tendulkar. Upasana works with a very approximately 5,000-year-old ancient text, manual, a playbook, or whatever you call it as, called as Natyashastra. Right? Natyashastra is basically a field of work that talks about performance arts, all kinds of performance arts, whether it is theater, music, all kinds of performance arts, right? So it sort of has a lot of great insights that is time tested in the last 5,000 years and still being practiced very actively in this part of the world, which is India. And one of the most beautiful things about this particular body of work, when it was designed in such a way that it constantly evolves. There is no sort of an end to how this whole thing evolves. It's sort of the concept evolves with humanity as it evolves, expressing more emotions, figuring out newer emotions, trying to understand what kind of mixed emotions are coming up in modern day context, and how do you sort of solve it, and how do you sort of communicate to it, and things like that. I have personally had some very, very profound experiences with this this field of work. I'm not an artist. I'm not I'm in any which ways connected to this performance arts at all. But I love the idea. I love the concept. I sort of did a lot of time spent a lot of time understanding it. And one of the things it taught me, is how to receive art, how to receive an expression, how to receive a performance. Because to be honest, when people talk about, oh, I went into this live performance and it was so moving, right? But if you actually break down the experience of the live performance, you will understand that there is lighting behind it, there is background music behind it, there is a certain kind of costumes that are sort of being worn by the people who are performing these arts. There is a certain narrative and a story that is being communicated. And oftentimes, when you're coming out of these performances, you tend to reflect, or at least go back in time to your own experiences in life a few times and start thinking about, man, this story really connects with my life. This aspect of this particular story spoke to me so much. And that is the science of Natyashastra. That is the science of theater, in terms of how can you induce these emotions in people's lives, get them to go into that reflective space, and a catharsis, even a point of release, in a way of healing and curing some of those hidden emotions and traumas that you might have forgotten about, and how the performance arts can sort of bring this out. Now, this is not by chance. This is not just happening. It could feel like it's happening by chance, but to be honest, this is science. There is a science behind it, and there are people who are trained in doing this, and in a way the director directs it, and the way the story writer writes the story, the way the cameraman captures these emotions, the way the lightman goes out and fixes lights for these performances, and so on and so forth. Obviously, we are not going to be going down and dissecting all of those areas of work, but specifically, why did we get so excited about bringing Upasana into it is because Upasana, as a performer, and also using Natyashastra very strongly and actively in her existing work that she's doing, which is taking these kinds of sort of profound work into corporate settings, into building leadership exercises, and into helping teams bond, and so on and so forth. Am I right, Upasana? I think you're on mute.
Yes, very much. You're very
Super.
much right.
Cool. Apart from being a performer and whatnot, she's also an entrepreneur. I would let her sort of walk us through the kind of work that she's doing, and the kind of impact that her work is having, and how essentially these things get integrated into the modern day challenges, and especially in the work environments. So Upasana, I'm going to hand it over to you. The sort of the expectation as an outcome from this, from the session, if possible, is to give people an insight on how you exactly married these two worlds, and give us some inspiration to go out and do more of these things. And if possible, if we have time, we will go deeper into understanding and talking a bit about the science part as well. I'm going to shut up and I'm going to pass it on to you. And the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, Shashi, for this beautiful introduction, and thank you, Sacred Startups, for having me here, and Ashish for this amazing seamless coordination. So I have a presentation, which will help me to be on track and keep the understanding of the time. So the whole idea today is to understand how the principles of Natyashastra can be used as entrepreneurs. So when I was having a conversation with Shashi, what I understood, like the whole group of audience here that we have are totally people who are into consciousness. They are bringing into market, into the table, something which may not be clearly seen as business as per the regular market. But finally, what we are doing is we are here, we are providing some kind of product or service, and then we have customers out there. We are dealing at a very different level, but finally, it is some kind of give and take. And we have to have this understanding that we are entrepreneurs. But entrepreneurship, business, when the way it is labeled, it comes as very transactional in nature. And the kind of work we do, we don't really see it as transaction. As an artist or as a therapist, healer, it's much more than a transaction. It is definitely a give and take, but beyond monetary or pure service or pure product. So we need certain different principles for entrepreneurship here. Definitely, because the kind of work we do, uh, m- maybe the typical business modules or business processes that have may not directly apply to us. So I come from a dancing background. I'm a Bharatanatyam dancer. So Natyashastra has been there with me for a good amount of time, more than 2 decades. But for last 2 years, I am very consciously studying it from a different lens, how it can be applied into day-to-day life. So through that research, whatever you'll be seeing on slide will be coming from that research. Um, I am trying to share a presentation.
Hi, Upasana. Yeah, you can primarily click on present and share screen, and I'll help you.
That's what I'm doing. Okay. Let me upload the file as they are saying. So it may happen.
Go ahead. Yep.
Yes. Okay, great. So a brief about Natya Shastra. So Natya Shastra is a significant text, and as per the research, it has a largest reach. When it says largest reach, many people don't even know that they are using principles of Natya Shastra. It is so much in the spirit and culture of Indian subcontinent that it is used so unconsciously and subconsciously. The compiler of Natya Shastra is Bharata Muni. So it is said that the Natya Shastra is come to us through the divine god Brahma. He told his son, he believed his son to be Bharat Muni. He gave that Shastra to Bharat Muni. So he brought it on earth. There is a beautiful story behind it, which we don't have time right now to get into. So Bharata Muni is the compiler of Natya Shastra. It covers everything that we see, hear, and experience. So it is said that it is drishyam, shravyam. So everything that we see around, hear around, experience around is Natya in itself. Is a drama, it is a leela that is constantly happening around us. So it is a part of Natya. It has 36 chapters and around 600 sutras. When it is sutras, these are verses. They are very small, but it has a deep meaning, and as you go more and more deep, every time you can find a deeper meaning to it. The art that provides knowledge and is knowledge itself. So this is the art which gives you processes how to be an artist. And when you be an artist, when you acquire that knowledge, that then what to do is also there in Natya Shastra. So the timeline is quite debatable. We don't have a proper timeline to it, but it is somewhere between 6 BC. It is written on compiled between 6 BC to 2 BC. Purpose we will discuss detail as we go ahead. So now the question is, whatever we are saying, as Shashi mentioned, it is 5,000 years ago. Is it even relevant to us? And is it even relevant to the topic that we are talking about? Is for entrepreneurs. So yes, it is very much relevant because, as I said, everything that happens around we see, hear, and experience is Natya in itself. When I say Natya, I mean drama. I mean some kind of leela which is constantly happening around. Okay, and we are part of that drama, knowingly, unknowingly. So most of the times we are in the part of this things that are happening around us very unconsciously, not knowing that we are playing. Yeah, Leela is a play. We are playing some kind of a role. We very unconsciously shift from one role to other. At times you are a mother, another time you are a sister, and then you are an entrepreneur, and then you are a salesperson for your own business. So many roles we are playing, but the switch does not happen very consciously. We get into so many roles, but actually at the core we are the same person wearing different roles. So necessarily we are doing some kind of play, some kind of drama. So then there are principles that how to be aware about these roles, and from that lens, I see Natyashastra. So etymology, what is Natyashastra? What is Natya? So in the most simplest words, Natya are the activities performed by a natter. So Natya here it is a play or a drama. And what is a drama? These are the activities done by natter. Who is natter? The actor. But natter is very loosely translated as a actor. Okay, it's much deeper. So natter follows the principle of yatha pinde tatha brahmande. Okay, so what it means is whatever is there in the universe is within me, and whatever is there within me is in this universe. So if you see a natter can be anything, he can play any role, whatever is possible in the three worlds, okay, can be played by natter. He can be divine powers like Rama, Krishna, and Jesus. He can also be water, he can also be wind, and he can also play negative roles. And he plays in such a powerful way that when he is on the stage or performing behind in front of camera, we feel that that person is not that person anymore, but the character in itself. But how does the natter become a natter? So there is a huge process given in Natyashastra, that it's not just that you go in front of a camera or get on the stage and start acting. A huge process happens behind that. Okay, the natter of course studies that character that he or she has to perform. He also meditates on that character. Meditates as in he also, we need to understand here that 5,000 years ago we understood energy very well. Okay, so the whole idea to meditate on something that is going to be performed was we connect with that energy. So if I'm going to perform a Rama or a Krishna or a Jesus, then I have to meditate on that. So I connect with that energy. So when I am performing, it is not just a gross performance that because of my clothes and because the way I am talking I am appearing that personality, but at the energy level also I have gone close to that personality. And that's not just for divine powers. If he has to perform something like a wind or a water, then he would meditate on that as well. So basically connecting with the energy of that element. So when he is doing, not just externally he is performing that, but internally also he is connected with that kind of element. So this is the definition of natta. So natta is something very similar to a person who is performing some kind of a duty, because when we are performing any kind of a duty, maybe an entrepreneur or a very personal duty, we have to be very conscious because we are contributing something towards the society. Okay, and how authentically we can connect with that duty is very important. So this whole presentation we are considering ourselves the entrepreneurs as nutter, and then there are very beautiful things that are given that a nutter has to follow, which I feel today the entrepreneurs, especially who are working in a setting of consciousness, in a setting which impacts life much deeper, should follow. So we understood Natyashastra. So the topic said how to understand entrepreneur spirit using Natyashastra. So what does an entrepreneur mean, and what is the etymology? So when I was doing the research, I came across this and I felt this is the most beautiful definition or the meaning, if not definition, I can have for entrepreneur. So in 13th century, this was a French word called entrepreneur, which means to undertake or do something. It was as simple and as beautiful as that. And in 16th century, it turned out to be the noun as entrepreneur. So it is very important here to understand that when we are saying to do something or to undertake something, it is to be done by a person or a human. It is not a program or a AI. So here it beautifully separates us, because some idea comes, we can put it into AI and it can formulate. And today, I think in coming 2 years or 3 years, AI or the AGI that will develop, it will be in full possibility that it can even run that kind of a idea. Okay, but it will not have human touch. So I feel this kind of conscious entrepreneurs will actually take up the world henceforth, because whatever survival work we were doing till date will be taken by machines with the kind of progress that we are having in technology. So we have to develop our principles. We have to understand what conscious entrepreneurship means, which Secret Startup is doing very beautifully. And we need to understand that humans need to upgrade themselves, not just with external skills, but internally as well at a conscious level, to ensure that we are successful. And there where the human part of entrepreneurship will come. And then we have to even understand different principles that will change, that we are using today for business and entrepreneurship. So what is the objective of Nutter? So there are 4 objectives. I'm just briefly touching them, understanding the time. So dissemination of eternal so to disseminate eternal knowledge. So what it means here is, whatever knowledge that you are bringing, okay, your work is coming from some kind of study, some kind of deep study that you have done. So not just a superficial knowledge, but everything that you're putting on the table has to have at least 3-4 levels of external research. You have to experience it yourself, and then there is this full packet of pratyaksha. When I say pratyaksha, it means my personal experience, the experience of it is written somewhere. I have some data backup to it, and I also know the people around me are feeling similar, or somewhere some similarities. Then that is a proven knowledge. So before I take up to someone and it is going to impact someone, I need to have this kind of solid proof behind it. Evoking emotions. So now the world is changing and emotional intelligence is taking a peak. But initially we used to told that, don't bring emotions into business, don't bring emotions at workplace. But it's just not possible. A human can be either emotionally vulnerable or emotionally intelligent. There is no way a human can be emotionally not he does not bring emotions to the table. So at workplaces, it's only humans who go there, right? So emotions will come. So in future, and I think it starts from now itself, not just in future, that we have to deal with emotions. And as an entrepreneur, constantly, even before, without knowing it, what we were doing is touching some part of a person, which made that person buy that service or product. Okay, it will not happen very transactionally. Somewhere the heart comes in and says that, okay, I want to go with this person for the service or the product. So you have to connect with the hearts of people. You cannot do it at a transactional level. And Natyashastra very beautifully gives different ways to how to connect with hearts of people. Okay, which I feel is a very powerful science for everyone. May it be psychologists, may it be any kind of entrepreneurs, artists, definitely, teachers. For everyone, this part of Natyashastra is very beautiful and very useful, and it should foster social harmony. Now, nothing can happen individually, because now we have understood that we all are interconnected. Okay, one person is feeling down, is not is at a very low emotions. Even though you are not connected with that person, but that person is in the room, the average energy of the room will be pulled down. So when we are doing any kind of action, now I'm just talking from the room setting, but this is true for the whole globe. Okay, we call Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the whole globe is, the whole earth is our family, and we say it because we are all interconnected, and one person feeling low can pull down the energy. At the same time, if good amount of people start raising high, they can pull the people who are at low to high and take them and do what humans are meant to, evolve upwards. So that has to be one of the key objectives of conscious entrepreneurship, and promote inward journey. So whoever you touch, you have to ensure that they connect with some part of themselves. So these are the key objectives of a nutter, which I am understanding can be also the key objectives for a entrepreneur who is into consciousness, or who is dealing with deeper level of services and products. So what is the role that we have to play? We discussed that it is the nutter. We have to step ourselves into the shoes of nutter. A nutter is the one who performs different roles, but very consciously. So as an entrepreneur, we have to be best at the service we provide or the product we deliver, definitely, but at the same time we have to be salesperson at times, we have to be marketing person at times, we have to do our own HR. At the same time, we have to ensure that our key operations do not get impacted. So how do we transfer from one role to another role consciously, smoothly, gracefully? So this is the role that an entrepreneur needs to play. And when we are saying we are into consciousness, then we have to do our work consciously. The tool that we have to use is of Abhinaya. So Abhinaya is loosely translated as acting, but it is more than acting. What Abhinaya essentially means is you do something, you perform something which just does not entertain a person, but which goes deeper into a person and enlightens him or her. Okay, that is the actual meaning of Abhinaya. So it's not just entertainment, acting for entertainment, it is acting for spreading knowledge. So this is the tool we have to use. I can go on and on Abhinaya, but sometimes in future. And the principles that we have to follow are as follows. As a social entrepreneur, as a entrepreneur who is working in the space of consciousness, as per Natyashastra, there are these 5 very beautiful principles that are given, and I feel everyone should take these principles into consideration along with whatever your objectives are. One is loka, so it should be universal truth and experiences in the 3 worlds. The knowledge that you're providing, the service that you're providing should be easy for people to understand. Okay, it should not be very complicated, because when we are dealing into consciousness energy, it is possible that it becomes very complex for people to understand. So you have to ensure that it is simplified and taken to people. Adhyatma elevates the inner self for deeper spiritual experiences. We discussed that. Asvadyatva, it's very beautiful. So there are a lot of products and services out there in different fields and different sectors. Not everything is worthy for human consumption. Everything can be consumed. Like there are so many OTT platforms, which so many series come. Everything can be consumed, but not everything elevates the human experience. It does not take us above. So whatever you're providing should be worth consuming. Poison also can be consumed, but it should not be consumed. So whatever you're creating should elevate the human experience. And Sarva Varnika, which is absolutely inclusive. So in the world of we are exclusive, Natyashastra is saying that whatever you create should cater to maximum amount of people. And then there are success parameters given in Natyashastra. How an artist is considered to be successful. Okay, Siddhi is attainment, some kind of level of attainment that an artist has. So one is Manushi Siddhi, where the artist, and here even the entrepreneur, can please his customers, or in terms of artist, his audiences, and you can see that they are pleased through their applaud, through their standing ovations and everything, and with entrepreneur. It can be through their feedbacks, through their appreciation. So this is Manushya Siddhi, where humans that you are catering to are pleased. And then there is Devi Siddhi, which I find very beautiful. So here is a space, here is that kind of success parameter, which is saying the divine is happy with what you're doing. And how it is understood. So when an artist is performing, and when there is Manushya Siddhi, people clap, people give standing ovation. But when the gods are pleased, when the divine is pleased, people, when they see your performance, they go awestruck. They don't have words to say. They are so much into their own zone and connected with themselves deeply that they just don't know what to say. That kind of response is called as Devi Siddhi. So this is very, I quickly tried to put everything, which I generally take for 3-4 hours for the session in 20 minutes. This is the presentation. Thank you so much. And Shashi, please come in.
Wow, thank you so much. I think you've communicated what we were trying to sort of communicate in such an efficient way. And I'm sorry we could not give you more time. This definitely demands more time, and I wish I was sitting with you and going deeper and deeper and deeper into so many of these principles, because, personally, as an entrepreneur functioning in an unconscious way for almost close to 15 years of my life, one of the things that I didn't understand and realize was where to draw a line, right? Obviously, one in what you create for the world and the problems that you solve for the world. And the second thing is that when you have done your work and then you come back home, the role that you need to sort of leave outside the door, and then the role that you need to play when you get back into your house, is such an important thing. And a lot of the mental health challenges that the world is facing today, and especially within the entrepreneurship community, is because they don't know where to draw the line and what the role play is and what the role play, where which role play ends, right? Because imagine if you have a founder at home with your children, is not a very good idea, right?
Yeah.
Or imagine when you have a dad in a team as a team manager, not a good idea. Cracking dad jokes is not a good idea, right? So it's not a cool thing to happen. So not only are these amazing in how you sort of apply some of these principles when you're building something to the world outside, but I also feel that it's such an amazing tool to apply for any leadership role anybody plays in life, more so if you're an entrepreneur. So thank you so much for sharing this with us, and thank you so much for your time. I have a few ideas on what I want to do. I want to sort of try and take some of these concepts and build a framework of sorts with which we can help people simplify the way they run these ideas through these frameworks. So the outcome is maybe a business idea that is inspired or rather ran through the Natyashastra principles, if possible, right? It's possible, and I'm sort of seeing it already. So we will collaborate. We will figure it out.
Definitely.
Super. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so
have an
much.
awesome time. And,
You too. And
yeah.
this is a beautiful initiative. I must congratulate you and your team on this.
Thank you for sweet words. Honestly speaking, we are just making it look so good because of you guys. It's not our work. It's your work that's making us look good.
Yeah, it's our work.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao. It's a complex, loaded subject. It needs a couple of hours of podcasting. 20-minute session is just not enough, because there are so many things I think we can do by taking some of these concepts, and more so when you're dealing with the human inner world, right? Because one of the reasons why we bring these kind of subjects into these conversations or into these settings is because we can't be building products that go into the human world with the same thinking and the same framework that has been built by people who, let's say, for example, manufactured cars. There is a huge difference between mobility and convenience related frameworks and deeper frameworks which are dealing with human consciousness. So we need to look at this differently. We need different kinds of frameworks, different kinds of leadership qualities, if we are letting people come into our inner world, right? It's a very important filter that we need to run. So our effort is to sort of having these conversations and bring about these people, and then let's see where these conversations go. Now, from the world of dance and drama, we move into the world of fungi. I want to bring in Prithvi Kini. Hi, Prithvi. How are you?
Hello, hi Shashi. Great to be here.
Thank you so
Super
much for your time.
excited. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
me too.
super excited
Yes.
and nice to see this initiative come alive. I think congratulations to y'all to putting this together. So
Thank
yeah,
you. I'm sort of channeling, Paul Stamets right now, talking about the world of fungi. I'm sort of thinking about it, and the one of the things that I early on, when I was sort of on my self healing journey and figuring out my own mental health challenges and whatnot,
hmm
I decided that I did try, give it a shot, but the allopathic medicines never worked for me. And then I sort of had to come out of it. And then I decided to sort of go the organic way. And I was very strongly recommended at some point in time to get into fungi, right? Mycelium based fungi at some point to help deal with severe cases of ADHD and, certain cases of depression and so on and so forth.
right.
And I sort of ended up developing a very divine relationship with the world of fungi. It's been my guiding sort of a light for a long time now, and it's played a very, very important part in my, well-being, in my health, in my mental health recovery, and all of that kind of stuff. So when you and I connected, and when we started talking about fungi, it felt like this is a beautiful world because fungi is such an awesome world. We need to bring this world and talk about what fungi can do. And I know you're dealing with functional fungi, which has nothing to do with psychedelics, and more so demystifying functional fungi and killing the trauma around functional fungi is so important. And
Absolutely.
if anybody who's connected to this world of consciousness might already be seeing a ton of feeds on their Instagram talking about functional fungi for focus, for ADHD, for better sleep, better immunity, better gut health, and so on and so forth, right? There's so much happening in this space.
Right.
Talk to us and take us through all of the things that you have done. And I know you have gone through a very interesting journey of how you landed up in dealing with fungi. Why don't we start with that story? Tell us what were you doing before, where are you from, why did you choose fungi? And
Sure.
I'm gonna get out of this. You have a presentation, right?
I do. I do. I can talk a little bit about that and then jump into the presentation. Yeah.
Cool.
So, what got me into the space? Well, it's a long story, but I would say that it started really with, the transition. I was in a space of tech, I was in quantum cybersecurity, and I was in the deep end of tech. So, I was working with a lot of startups then. I had always been a creator of sorts. Like I wanted to be creative and always wanted to work with small organizations. And what really moved me into the space of fungi was truly actually wanting to be able to take control over food, over health, over the way my lifestyle was. So I'm also a yoga teacher. There's a lot of my life that was in this path of holistic wellness and all of that. And I wanted to move into spaces where food could be re-looked at and could be healed. I mean, could be used as modalities of healing. But and during that journey, while transitioning from there and also trying a lot of these mushroom products that I had got from the US, I was seeing tremendous kind of benefits that personally I had not been able to resolve through many years. And the curiosity of just the very organism in itself, where there was this organism that was defying a lot of other preconceived notions of what the plant and the animal kingdom do, and they have create these, they're almost like chemical masterminds which create these novel bioactive molecules that can do a bunch of things. And I think it was a combination of moving into a space of seeing food more from a functional and a healing perspective, and then chancing upon fungi that kind of did wonders even for me, even in various aspects of healing. It's one is psychedelics, one is functional fungi, one is even food, like from a point of view of just putting it into your bodies on a day-to-day basis, from a fiber content, from reducing inflammation. So I think a lot of those aspects of that journey kind of made me culminate here. And it really brought back a sense of lost curiosity for not just myself, but the world around. And to, kind of take away from who I mean, I am as a person and see more of the world as I know it. So it's brought in a lot into my life that is an intangible, I would say, but deep respect for the organism for existing long before we did. Of course, I'll
No,
take everybody through the whole story of why fungi itself, but for sure, this has been
but
my
don't
slice of.
forget to. I know fungi is a subject that will sort of overshadow everybody. But at the same time, I don't want us to lose sight on the fact that you're an entrepreneur who are dealing with fungi.
Absolutely.
So I would love for you to also share with us some of your entrepreneurial stories and journeys and hardships that you might be dealing with or you dealt with when you started a company that deals with something like this. Right?
Sure, I would share that.
Yeah. So the whole stage is yours now. I'm going to drop off from here. I'm going to see you on the other side.
Okay, awesome. Cool. I think I can just share my screen. Yeah, can y'all see my screen? Okay, awesome. I think everyone can see. I can't really see the chat, but I hope y'all can see my screen. Well, good evening, everybody. Prithvi here from Nuvedo, and I'm really excited to talk to you all about not just fungi and the world of mushrooms, but the space that the interplay with what it really brought to my life as an entrepreneur and how it has framed so many different aspects of sort of changing my perspectives even with respect to entrepreneurship. So before I start any conversation, anything, I really like to really start with this quote, and it's by this very famous author called Merlin Sheldrake, who's written this lovely book that I recommend for everybody who wants to just start off to understand this world. And the quote goes, fungi make worlds, they also unmake them. There are a lot of ways to catch them in the act. When you cook a mushroom soup or you just eat it, when you go out gathering mushrooms or you buy them, ferment alcohol, beer, wine, plant a plant, or just bury your hands in the soil. And whether you let a fungus into your mind or marvel at the way it entered the mind of another, whether you're cured by one or you watch it cure another person, whether you build your home from fungi or start growing mushrooms in your home, which is super easy to do, fungi will catch you in the act. And if you're alive, they already have. So, yes, they're around us, they're within us, they came before us, and they would continue to be ahead of us. They're going to challenge a lot of the ways in which we're going to look at our futures. And I think this very quote really kind of sets the context of what we're going to talk about today. So just to kind of trigger some brain cells to give you an idea of where you might be when you think about mushrooms, you think about this space, right? If you had to think about just generally what mushrooms were, well, if in these three sentences or these three statements, which would you think were true? So one is the world's largest organism is a mushroom or a blue whale, or I don't know. Colorful mushrooms are more likely to be poisonous. And 1 billion spores is the number of spores that an artist conch mushroom may release in a 6-month cycle. So this is just to give just a a feeler before we get into things to understand where we're even at when we think of mushrooms or we think of fungi, right? So I'm gonna move right into it, and in fact, all of them are true. The first one, which is the world's largest organism, is in fact a mushroom, which is the body of the mushroom actually exists below the soil. And what you see on top is just a body or a fruit surface. So it's actually the Armillaria osteae, which is a mushroom that spans over 165 football fields. So the mycelium or the network that actually exists below the ground is that wide. So it's not a blue whale. I mean, organism-wise, it is actually a mushroom. And if you see this picture here, and there's going to be something that we're going to be talking about later into the presentation, which is about how we even view organisms, right? So a lot of what preconceived notions that we've had about ourselves, about the way we understand the natural world, when we see something, we're immediate to make assumptions about it, you're immediate to kind of create illusions about what it is. In fact, the two colorful mushrooms here are actually medicinal mushrooms. It's actually a cordyceps and a reishi, and the two white ones, which are actually poisonous ones. So even when we think of what is medicinal, how we view the world in terms of what is good, the ideas of purity associated with white, and oh, white is only clean. So these are things that the space of fungi and the space of mushrooms has really broken. It's broken not just from a point of view of course, like the ton of health benefits that I will talk about that each of these mushrooms have, but even for myself to challenge the way I'm even looking at the natural world. So I think being in this space, it has opened up a lot of perspectives of what we think the world is, what we know the natural world as, and to really remove ourselves from, us as the humans being the only people who can understand this world, but, removing the Anthropocene from this whole picture. So this is a very interesting picture because every time I've ever shown this, almost everybody goes and gravitates towards the ones which are white. And coming to the last one, it's actually not 1 billion spores, it is 5 trillion spores. So that's where, that's really where kind of how they propagate. This is how far and wide they reach, just to give you an idea of what mushrooms can do. I'll just talk a little bit about what we do at Nuvedo. So we're basically working on functional mushrooms. We make products out of them. We're working with several different types of mushrooms which have different health benefits, which I'll get into. And we have been around for the last, 3 years. The idea was to re-examine the relationship that we have with fungi, to look at a new perspective on something that was always old, something that has been there for millennia, something that we have lost touch with as Indians. So when we think of mushrooms, we always think about traditional Chinese medicine, or we think about the East. But in fact, within our own societies and our own countries, we have a plethora of knowledge that is very, very much deeply rooted in healing from mushrooms, in fact, in tribal regions. And it's in fact, it's just not been exposed, it's not been talked about. So really rewriting that narrative. And just want to talk a little bit about when we began this journey, when I started getting into fungi. I noticed that the conversation itself was something that was scary. People didn't want to talk about it. They always thought that mushrooms are poisonous. And I've seen now over the last 3 years, as you keep educating people and you keep bringing those perspectives to them, you're able to kind of open up their mind, open up their thoughts on the subject so much more, thereby making them so much more closer to the natural world. And I'll talk a little bit about that towards the end, on things that we can do as as individuals to get ourselves closer to that space. So let's come back to the real star of who we're talking about today, which is fungi. So fungi, to give you a little broader perspective of what they do, they have several different roles in the ecosystem. But some of the main roles that we as a species, as a human species, will not be able to exist in this form and will not see the world that we do if it weren't for a few of them. So the first is decomposition. Without fungi, you would find rotting wood piling up on the sides of the road. You would find, the world as we know it today would not exist. So they're very, very important in the ecosystem when you think about decomposition, and to create, continue the circle of life. They are the bridge between life and death. They come at that point where one organism is going through that transition, and it's very interesting that they actually really balance in that state, because that's really where a lot of the beauty of this organism lies, because we're constantly talking about decay, and how decay is so essential even for us. And I'll actually just to highlight a little bit about what Shashi asked me to speak about, the idea of decay has been central to a lot of my journey while working with fungi, because we are constantly reinventing ourselves. We are constantly, something happens, you have an issue with this. There are 100, like I think the previous speaker was talking about, you're wearing so many hats, and some of those hats you have to just, it decays, and then you have to regrow again, and you have to decay, and you have to keep reinventing and re-challenging yourself to be to think differently, to show up again, to revive whatever challenges that might come your way. And it comes all the time. It's not, I mean, just me being somebody working in the fungi space, but any entrepreneur, right? To keep picking yourself up and having the resilience. So decomposition, decay, those themes, of course, in the in the ecology world, it's there, but even as an entrepreneur, it plays a huge role. Nutrient cycling, so it helps in transferring nutrients from one across an ecosystem, across different plants and animals. It plays a huge role in symbiosis, where it interacts with different species in the ecosystem to create connections, to create new relationships. And this has also been a very, very central theme to the way I have changed my way of operating. We I no longer look at anything in isolation. I'm always looking at forming connections, not just from a point of view of saying yes, I formed a connection. No, but truly working with people in a collaborative way, seeing how they can, how I can enable them and they can enable me, and we can really work together. So symbiosis is also huge part of the mycelial way as we know it and as we talk about it. It's a food source, yes, very, very nutritious food source. It has ton of bioactive compounds, really high in fiber content, really high in protein. Some mushrooms, biological control. Another very important theme, which is essentially to do with the police of the entire ecological space, where if it weren't for fungi, a lot of fungi, we would just not, we would have tons of diseases. There would be things that just go out of control. So it's really maintaining a sort of homeostasis of sorts within a larger ecosystem, and it keeps things in check. It keeps things in constantly in check. It's medicine. Yes, food is medicine. Medicine is food. So there is a ton of medicine, but a big, big medicine that I want to highlight is, of course, the antibiotics that were discovered accidentally, and it was because of a fungi. So without that, human life uh, would not have extended this far. So yes, antibiotics and materials. That's a new innovation that's come out in the space of fungi, and they're doing wonderful work. I can show you a few pictures about it. But yeah, so this is essentially what really they do. Today we're going to only be talking about more to do with the medicinal part, and more to do with the food and nutrition. So quickly, what's a mushroom? A mushroom is a fruiting body of an otherwise very, very big organism called the mycelium. Mycelium exists below the ground. A mycelium could be equated to a root, stem, and leaf of a plant, and the mushroom is like a fruit that exists on the plant. A little bit about mycorrhiza, and this kind of comes back to the context of symbiosis that I was talking about. So mycorrhiza is essentially how mushrooms form associations with trees or with the root systems of trees, kind of forming a give and take, not like a business relationship, you could say, underneath the ground. And there are certain mushrooms that do not grow without the companionship of these trees. So this particular phenomenon is so wonderful because it helps within networks of forests. Many trees are able to talk to each other. There is a strong network pathway that enables various trees in a forest to communicate through a lot of these mycorrhizal relationships. Highlighting this because when we look at an ecosystem, we don't really see the fungi always. We're not obviously seeing the mushrooms, we're seeing the trees, we're seeing the plants, but below the soil, there's a huge underground network that's operating without, through the unseen, right? And this really almost is like a bedrock of how the forest communicates with each other, and disrupting this, and then there is almost like disrupting the whole network of a forest. So preserving and conserving fungi, even from this perspective, if you think about it, is super, super important. And not just from a point of view of a mushroom, but from a point of view for a larger ecosystem. Coming to mushrooms, why must we grow them, right? What makes them so good in the environment? Coming to growing the mushroom, which is the fruiting body of the fungus, a lot of different mushroom cultivation techniques involve upcycling agricultural waste, where is in a country like India, where we have ton of agricultural waste being generated every year. And in fact, we're almost entering the month of October, which is going to be a lot of crop burning across North India. A lot of mushrooms grow on agricultural waste. And a very innovative, I mean, interesting thing is that you can train mycelium to figure out if it likes to eat that waste. So a lot of mushrooms need a food source to grow on, and those food sources depend on the type of mushroom that you're growing. What we did at actually at Nuvedo was that we were one of the mushrooms, which is the oyster mushroom that we wanted to grow, is typically grown on paddy straw. We were able to actually grow it on ragi straw, which is, a ragi is a crop that is very prevalent in Karnataka, the state that I'm in, and a very resilient crop. So we were able to actually train the mycelium to grow on that, and it did really well. So that actually becomes a very circular kind of an system where you're using these agricultural waste systems and streams to grow mushrooms, which are actually extremely good for you. It's very water efficient. It uses just a fraction of water compared to traditional crops. And like I said, it's once the mushroom grows, and so you give it the food source, it eats the food source, it produces mushroom. Once the mushrooms are harvested, the block that's remained can go back into the soil, and it helps with soil fertility, helps with soil structure, and this whole system becomes really circular. So even if you think about, if you were to just grow mushrooms from a perspective of somebody who's living in an urban area, it's extremely good for you, not just for consumption, but even for the environment. To give you a sense of where that kind of lies from a water perspective, it's about 25 liters compared to, say, a red meat, which would be 15,000 liters. Again, why such a good food source, even for people who live in urban areas? Because you don't need soil. And that was something when we started our journey with Nuvedo, we wanted to get into food, right? We wanted to look at food systems. We wanted to look at land. We was looking at traditional farms across India. And at that time, we didn't have access to land. We still don't. Land was, a big capital investment that we didn't have money for. Neither did we find land that was not already, heavily ridden with pesticides and stuff like that. So that's when we also started tinkering with just growing mushrooms, and we realized you don't need land, you don't need sunlight. It can be grown vertically. It's a completely zero waste process. So it grows on waste. It's highly water efficient, and it has really fast growing cycles. So that itself kind of nudged us in that direction to say that these organisms are incredible. They can be grown in my house in a small little room, and I'm able to grow such good food for myself. What more do I really need? And I think these questions of growing, and also once you get to start understanding the organism, you start to also realize a lot of things about yourself when it comes to patience, when it comes to dealing with something that's living. You're no longer dealing with you're dealing with a highly intelligent, very sensitive organism that you need to respect and give it that sensitivity. For example, playing music when the mushroom was growing, or making sure you're not in a bad headspace and you kind of just do things very fast to, a lot of subtleties that have played a huge role when we've seen in the journey with growing mushrooms, that they can sense and they have a very strong, understanding of. So yeah, mushrooms can be grown even 2 to 3 times faster than traditional crops. Coming to now the topic, which is the medicinal mushrooms that we're talking about. We know about mushrooms and we know they're great and they can be grown, but what about medicine mushrooms? Why have people not really? Is it something new? Is it something old? Has it been around? Why is it suddenly a buzzword? Why is it? Well, here's the fact that medicine mushrooms are old. People, through time and through history, have been using mushrooms as far as 5,300 years old, where in fact a fossil called Otzi the Iceman was found, and in his pocket he had two mushrooms with him. One was the birch polypore and the other was the tinder mushroom. um, it could be that these mushrooms were used for medicinal purposes, and one was used as a fire starter. So as far as an Iceman back in the day was really carrying mushrooms for his own, medicine purpose. And it could be that because they were in these countries where they were eating a lot of meat, because these mushrooms have a lot of antiviral properties, antibacterial properties, consuming them when you eat a lot of raw meat would, I mean, that's the hypothesis, that could be the possibility of why he was carrying these mushrooms, right? It goes even back. One of the first mentions of medicinal mushrooms is in the Benku Gangmu, which was in traditional Chinese medicine, and it is the reishi mushroom that they mentioned there. So that again is something that was documented and people know about, and a lot of the wealth of knowledge surrounding fungi and medicinal mushrooms came from China, in fact. And traditional Chinese medicine is an incredible space of exploration of these different mushrooms. So yeah, it's old. It's been around. It's been as far as 16th century, documented and undocumented. Icemen were using it. So yeah, they even in this particular text they talk about how it calms the spirit. They're talking about the reishi mushroom here. You can see in his hand that he's holding it here. It looks very similar, and you can see here as well. They spoke a lot from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, where it calms the spirit, and they talk more in terms of the chi. It says it strengthens the heart blood, whereas translates to cardiovascular health, normalizes blood lipids, and it also strengthens lung function. So it was always taken as a tonic, and it was used for shortness of breath, lack of appetite. And this particular mushroom is known as the herb of immortality in China. It's called the reishi mushroom or the Ganoderma lucidum. I'll show you pictures of it shortly. But essentially, this mushroom was revered by a lot of different, noblemen, and it was only reserved for them so that it could increase their lifespan. But now, of course, a lot of people know about it, and it's a wonderful herb of immortality, if I'd like to call it that. So yeah, a little bit of history, and now moving a little into present day. How healthy are they, right? When you think of mushrooms, there's so many different types of mushrooms for different health benefits, and different mushrooms are specific for lifestyle related issues. Some are really good for just maintaining cardiovascular health. Some mushrooms are very good for memory and focus, and I'll be talking a little bit about that. So do remember this particular mushroom, because it is one of the only organisms that are present in nature that could help your nerve cells grow back. And this particular mushroom is called the lion's mane mushroom. So these are some very unique bioactive compounds that are not created in other plant species or in other plant species. So for us to really access them and be able to work with them is a huge privilege, because why are and why these molecules, why not the molecules, why not the bioactive molecules present in plants, you may ask, right? Why not? It's only because if you look at a genetic map of plants, fungi, and humans are more closely related in DNA with fungi than they are with plants. So a lot of the molecules that fungi create for themselves, like which are present in them, like in the mushroom, work really well on us. If you think about even the antibiotic that was created, right? It came from a fungus. Why do you think it works so well on us? It's because in the genetic tree, we actually are more closely related to them than to plants. So yeah, so a couple of things again to highlight is that one is, of course, memory and focus. A lot of mushrooms really good for heart health, diabetes. This particular one, regulating the immune system, is across a lot of different mushrooms. One of the mushrooms that is celebrated for it is the reishi mushroom that I just showed you. Right. So when we think about mushrooms and we think about the compounds, one of the compounds that people look at a lot are terpenes. So terpenes are a class of compounds that are present inside mushrooms, and I want to talk really about just two particular mushrooms that are known for it, which is the lion's mane mushroom, like I was just talking about. It's got this thing called the nerve growth factor, which helps your nerve cells grow back. A lot of people now across as we get older as a society, as lifespans increase, it also means that nerve health is of very, very strong importance. Using our capabilities from a neurological perspective has to also be maintained, so that we live a life that is also, you know, healthy, and we're able to kind of work towards it. So lion's mane mushroom has a lot of those different health benefits from a point of view of just working with creating new neural pathways, working with cognition, and it really helps to again make you a little better version from a focus point of view. So lion's mane mushroom, another mushroom that also has had a lot of different recently has had a lot of different therapeutic benefits from this particular point of view, from a mood and this, from depression and anxieties. Of course, the psilocybin mushroom, that mushroom is widely studied now across the West, and they're using it for a lot of therapy related to depression. They started, in fact, with actually PTSD, war veterans who initially started using it and saw huge, tremendous changes in their life, in their perspectives, in the way they were feeling about, the world, and the way they feel about themselves. So they work a lot on the mind as well, the mushrooms. The second one is the reishi that I spoke about. This is the reishi mushroom that you can see here. Again, it would be really hard to categorize it as one particular thing, because they do several things. A lot of these mushrooms are known as adaptogenic. So they work in a way with your own body's abilities to create new, or bring you back to what we call homeostasis, in whether it's reducing your inflammation, or increasing it, or working in a regulatory manner across different different pathways. The actual molecules here in reishi are the ganoderic acid, ganoderols, and lucideric acid, which really work amazing on the human body. So mushroom terpenes is something that I wanted to talk about. Some other mushrooms that we want to also highlight is the cordyceps mushroom. Actually, I'll go to the next one. Oh, this is missing. There's a slide missing. No worries. So the cordyceps mushroom is really, really good for endurance, for sexual vitality, for a general. It is a it's a vasodilator, and it's a bronchodilator, helps you breathe better. So people who are into fitness and into running, or even somebody who just is looking to improve that sense of health, cordyceps is amazing for that. There's the shiitake mushroom, which is again really good for skin, and it's got various different applications, even in traditional Chinese medicine, that helps in supporting the liver. Shiitake mushroom, eaten as is or taken in a format of an extract, works wonders. So these are some of the mushrooms that are widely used and have widely been studied for different health benefits. And some of them are almost the chaga mushroom that you see here, it's actually wild foraged. It's not always cultivated. So that mushroom is something that you have to make sure you're not really getting it from a place where people are extracting it from a forest, but they're actually growing it. Because at the end of the day, while we may revere these organisms, we also have to understand, what are we doing? Are we growing them? Okay. Are we extracting them from their natural environment and trying to cater to a need of 1 billion people? That's not a good idea. So just to kind of keep that perspective in mind as well, when you think of also or you leave with that inspiration of here's this wonderful world of mushrooms, but how do I really access it with that that mindfulness of understanding that it is also part of the natural world. So yeah, just a thought on that. Yeah, I've put this in here because we spoke so much about all these different things that mushrooms created. So at some level, mushrooms would not have created these compounds by accident. There is a lot of different, because it's such an old organism, there is years and years of impressions and understanding that they are in many ways intelligent. In fact, I just wanted to share something here. This is actually from a wonderful page called After School, and they talk about how if it weren't for fungi and they were not able to invent a new way to break down lignin, we'd have a whole world full of piled up wood. And because for the longest time, they were not able to break it down. And then they realized that, they were able to create these chemical compounds to break it down. And finally, the world as we know it, like I said, exists. So a lot of these compounds that they create may not be by accident. They are also largely to do with how intelligent the organism in itself is and has the ability to create more than what we just see. Here, I also wanted to just talk. Actually, I wanted to talk a little bit about in this particular slide that when you think of the compounds that a mushroom creates, it is also to do with where they are grown, how they are grown, where they kind of, which ecosystems they live in to be able to produce these compounds. Sometimes stressors or external conditions enable them to create something new, or enable them to cook up, like, concoct something new. So they're extremely adaptable. And I think this particular point of adaptability is something that has shook me a lot and has, taken me by the horns, one could say, while I was working with them, because you have to keep adapting. As an entrepreneur, I've found so many times that the only way to really survive and to keep going is to adapt, quickly change your course of action, understand what's right and what's wrong, and then just move to the next step or reinvent the next step. So whether it's decaying yourself or reinventing to find a new solution and being okay to change course completely is something that the mycelium or working with fungi helps us do every day. In fact, even today, just came out of small crisis in our facility, and been up since 6 in the morning, and it's really it's amazing to see that you figure something out, and there's always a way to uh, find solutions in a world which would otherwise just try to box you and say, okay, this is the only path you have, this is the only space. I think mycelium have a beautiful way of just forming networks, forming relationships, quickly problem solving, that uh, I have really embodied and really tried to practice each and every day through my journey with working with them. So yeah, I mean, we spoke a lot. I know I can talk a lot about way more. Each of these things is like a 2 hour presentation, but because we wanted to cover like a larger view, wanted to also talk about products that, we make and like people can make from mushrooms as well. Um, Mushrooms itself are one kind of, you can have it whole, you can have it fresh, you can have it dry, but to be able to get the whole array of bioactive molecules from them, to be able to get the full benefit of the functional mushroom, a very good format to really consume it is in the form of extracts. Extracts enable it to get all the water soluble compounds, all the fats, all the alcohol soluble compounds, and you're able to get a full, what do you call it, a full experience of what that, or the full potential of what that mushroom could do for you, and how it can enable you to experience those different health benefits. So extracts are one. Even from a point of the format, it could be in a powder format, it could be in liquid format. Across the world, I'll be showing you a slide of what's happening across the world. People are doing wonderful different products in uh, not just functional mushrooms, but even in terms of mushroom chips, mushroom chocolates, mushroom candies. There's all kinds of different formulations and potential to use these particular mushrooms to different product lines. So yeah, and I was just kind of coming to that. I'm going to spend some time on this, in fact, and what's really happening right in the fungi space. How is this being enabled? So of course, we can talk about food, right? Just fresh mushrooms, having them as different formats, putting them in different recipes, having them dehydrated, having them fermented, having them pickled. So that's food. Then there's farming, of course, where people are just growing the mushrooms as producers of them and having them in the highest quality, being able to produce different kinds of strains, having, and by the way, one of the world's leading producers of mushrooms is China. Today, China is the world leading producer, and they have some of the best technology when it comes to cultivation. All of the innovative cultivation that came from the mushroom space came from people like you and maybe people like you and me who had no background in mushrooms, had no idea about, was not a trained mycologist, but somebody who just started trying it out at home, cultivating them, finding new hacks to do new innovations, and it all came from the ground. Which is why I find, and I really want to stress here about the space of fungi is completely driven by citizen science. It is driven by people from the ground who have open sourced their innovations to the world. And it is one of, I have found that being in the space has been one of the most open source platforms across the world. I can connect with anybody across the world, and they will be willing to share information, will be willing to talk about things and ways of doing work. So even that has made me realize that it has opened up so much more room to play and explore. So coming back, yeah, farming, food, fermentation is another huge space that's being looked at. Products and packaging, I wanted to talk a little bit about this, but actually using mushrooms to make mushroom
I'm
myself.
sorry to step in. I
Yeah.
think we are a bit out of time.
Oh,
If you
okay,
can
okay.
take the
No,
next couple of minutes to
and wrap
quickly
up.
run us
Yeah,
through it.
sure,
Yeah.
sure,
Okay, cool.
sure. So, I think I'll talk a little bit about how one could engage with fungi. Of course, as people, like you and me, who are experiencing them in the natural world, seeing them, consuming them, a lot of why we need to do it is because all the stuff that I spoke about, climate change, habitat loss, and also just knowing our natural world like we are. There are multiple organizations across the world doing this kind of work. A lot of the materials of the future will be based on fungi. So, yeah, I think that was my last slide, I think. But yeah, the idea is that if we were to look at fungi and mushrooms not in isolation, but in looking at it from a larger perspective, we are actually changing the way we also see ourselves in this world, the way we see us as humans, not or humans interacting with the world, but just a part of everything that we know. So I think as a last thought, I would just like to say that understand organisms that you don't always see, and I think it will change the way your day-to-day life also kind of goes ahead. So yeah.
Wow. You
Yeah.
loaded us with so much stuff. I think,
I try. It
yeah,
was a lot because I feel like there's so much
there
to
is so
talk. Each
much.
of those points are like 2 hour
I know.
presentation.
I mean, listen, I had a bunch of questions that I wanted to ask you, especially with how these things definitely sort of work on in your mind, and especially when it comes to mental health and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I think we need to do a podcast around it,
We
a
need to
separate
have,
one.
yeah, it's a full topic. So
It's an amazing world out there, and then I think there is so much to learn from, and especially when you talked about citizen science, the thing that took me back to was this: all of the open source movement, all of the internet, all of it was citizen science, all of it was citizen movement. And there is so much that you can learn from some of these organisms, and how you can run your organizations, how you can build your communities, how you can curate your cultures and whatnot, right? So it
absolutely.
never stops giving. It keeps giving all the
Yeah.
time now.
And you
You just have
constantly
to have an
inspire
eye
others.
to see it.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
how
Absolutely.
how just before I sort of let you go, I just want to
Sure.
know, how has it been as an entrepreneur in this space? Is it a good time to be in this space? Are you having fun? Are people listening to what you're saying? Are they interested in what you're doing? Or is there a lot of resistance that you'll have to sort of deal with?
Right. So I would say there is, of course, like there is a bias. Like I said, there is, mycophobia, or there is the space that people don't always understand. But there is enough of a community. There is enough of a growing group of people who understand it, that kind of encourage you to do more and more and more. So I would say that when we started 3 years ago to now, there's been a huge wave. Like, it's not that when we started there was nobody. It was very hard, it was challenging. It didn't really make sense to anybody. In fact, even my family or even people who are my close friends, they didn't perhaps understand what this was all about. But I think the more and more people, you stick with it, and you keep telling that story, and people understand it through different life experiences, or you encourage them to do it, or like be in nature and experience a lot of these organisms. It has changed. So I would say I'm very hopeful, and I'm always putting a lot of hope into the world, that I hope that we can see a life where we're very, very, we understand and live very harmoniously with family.
Oh,
So
hopefully that's the dream, right? I mean, that's what we're trying to
yeah.
manifest through all of this.
Yes.
Obviously we cannot go and change the whole world, but I think
No, no.
it's simpler and easier to create a small one of your own. So I hope we all get to do that. And I know you're already doing it. All the best to all the things that you're working on. And hopefully at some point, there will be much more interaction and collaboration and I don't know what else
I'm
between
sure
sacred
they will.
startups and Veda.
Yeah, I'm sure they will, Shashi. Thank you so much for having me on this. And I think it's a wonderful curation of so many different like minded people that hopefully more and more mycelial networks can find their way. So,
Super. I'm going to take you
yeah.
off the stage now and I'm
Thank
going to try and
you.
bring the next one.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Have a nice evening. Ciao.
you too. Bye.
Oh, that's mycelium for us. Um, Moving from mushrooms to some furniture, and common thread that sort of runs between all of these things is manifestation, is about having an eye to view things from a different perspective, because there is inspiration everywhere, and then there is profoundness everywhere if you sort of look at ways and taking experiences of your life and integrating it into whatever that you want to create, right? So and the next speaker, who ended up taking a similar experience and has now started a furniture company. I want to bring in Iteesha. Hi, Iteesha. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing very well. How are you?
Good. How are you? Where are you?
I'm in Chandigarh right now.
Still in India. All right. Cool. So there was a specific reason or a specific thing that we wanted to sort of talk about using Iteesha's story, which is every time when you go through a self-realization process, or when you sit down and ask some strong questions about what you're doing in life and what is it that you would like to do and where is it that you would like to go in the future, there's always these voices in the inside that sort of answers and responds back. And when you decide to sort of listen to that voice, and then when you decide to give that voice a chance to show you what it wants to show you, it takes you on a journey. It takes you on an experience, on a journey to sort of introduce you to your own soul. And what comes out of that experience sometimes can really be life changing. It's most of the times, if you are authentic enough in life, it's very hard to turn your back on these voices. And then when you decide to do so, the next thing that you need to cultivate is a lot of courage, because what comes out of it might be very different, might be very beautiful, might be very unique, might be very abstract. So this is one of those stories, right? Iteesha's is one of those stories where she went on a journey of self-exploration and came back thinking about starting a company that works on beautiful pieces of furniture. But what is so special about this furniture? Why is it that this thing is an interesting story for sacred startups? Is because she found inspiration in ancient texts, in India or other anywhere in the world. If you are not aware of this, if you're from anywhere outside of this country of India, the oldest book that has ever been recorded, or any kind of oldest wisdom that has ever been recorded, is what we call as the Rig Veda. Some people talk about Rig Veda being almost 14 to 15,000 years old, and that's mostly because of certain astral, mentions that is there in the book that sort of goes back to 14, 15,000 years back when these events took place, these astral events that took place, which is the positioning of the planet, positioning of the stars, and movement of the comets, and all of these kind of things. So Iteesha is bringing something that was dreamt of and imagined that many years back into today's context, and that too she's bringing it in a furniture company. I want to sort of take Iteesha on a sort of walk this journey with Iteesha, going back in time and exploring how these experiences is manifested into a company that designs furniture. So that's sort of the setting of this conversation, and I'm going to see how much we'll be able to bring that out. Iteesha, are you ready?
Yes.
I know you're a
So-
bit nervous, but I just want you to sort of shake it off and then say, channel everything and anything that comes, and don't be worried about what you're saying or if this is the right place to say everything that you want to say and everything that you've experienced. So just bring it out.
Yeah. So I'll just assume I'm talking to you right now.
That's it.
So,
You're talking to me. That's about it. All right. So tell me a bit about your story, because I think there's a lot of interesting inspirational points in the story. The kind of work that you were doing in the past, and then the story of you sort of asking that question and going on a journey. So walk us through it. What were you doing in the past?
yeah. So I come from a design background, and back in 2019, I was working with a corporate company in Bangalore. And I think for all the speakers in this unconference, COVID has been like a turning point for a lot of us. Yeah. And
Including me.
and it was going very well before COVID, and suddenly when we were locked in our houses, and that job, so suddenly it felt like, what am I doing? Why am I selling? And there were all news around that with humans indoor, the nature is sort of flourishing, and I sort of resonated with that. And I was like, why am I selling fast fashion and spending 12 hours of my day selling fast fashion? I can do something more meaningful with those 12 hours a day. And that was the sort of taking point, I would say, where I thought I wanted to explore what I can do. And with my experience with an IFT, and we had certain exposure with the craft communities in India, and I had been wanting to do that. And obviously, I couldn't gather the courage to quit that job and uh, actually pursue it, because I didn't know where to start from. And then I took a journey to the Himalayas, where everyone says
Of course.
you find answers in the Himalayas. And I think I went for 3 days. I told my parents I'm going for 3 days, and I ended up there for 3 weeks. And I think when you're searching for answers, you sort of attract people who tell you things, and that changes your perspective. And somehow I met so many passionate people, athletes, founders, who are doing something that they loved doing and they are pursuing. And there is this one specific incident, I think that was the turning point, whereas like next day I'm putting my resignation, was I met a guy who was a director at Adobe Bangalore. He was in my hostel, and my friends were mocking me, like, so hostel friends were mocking me that, she's not able to leave her job, she hates her job and she's not able to do it. And that person said that so I had played till Ranjis, and the biggest regret of my life is that I did not had the courage to follow that unconventional path. And he was, I think, in his 50s, and said, till date I have that regret that I did not take that step. So even if you fail, that regret is bigger than not pursuing it. I was like, that's it, now I am going to leave my job. And then
But
I
did you know
started.
what you wanted to do when you
No,
decided that no,
not,
you had no idea?
no idea, no idea. I was, and then I took a break for 2, 3 months, and I think somehow things aligned, and I ended up working with the Himalayas. Kept calling me back, and ended up working with communities in Himachal, Dharamshala, and we worked with Pine Needle Cluster, and uh, we were sort of exploring how design, exploring the intervention of design into traditional crafts, so that we can make it more accessible into the modern markets, like bridging that gap. And this happened for 2021 and 2022, and then we sort of had an idea of like furniture still hasn't like come into the picture, and we were exploring with home accessories, because that is what the artisans were making. But we tried a few things were not panning out as we had thought, and with this journey had its own highs and lows. But coming back to December of 2023 and how Vedas came into the picture.
Yes, that's what I'm interested in also.
Yeah. So this was a new low that I had hit in these like post COVID. It was a new low that I didn't know. Like I didn't know that इससे भी ज़्यादा like you can go that extreme, because like work wise with Sarvatva and with my personal life, everything just came crashing down all at once, and I didn't know, like nobody prepped me up to deal with the situation like that. And I was almost on the verge of quitting everything, and I was like, I am not good enough to do this. And then I was sitting with one of my team members. I very clearly remember we were sitting at a bus stop. We were coming from Jammu to Chandigarh, and I told her that I don't think that, probably we should find something else to do, because I don't think this is working out. And she said something that changed the way I thought. She said, "Ki, Tisha, I feel that this is the first time I'm doing something meaningful in my life." And that like sort of rang a bell, and I was like, no, we need to like pursue it and push
Figure this
it,
out further.
and let's see where this journey takes us. And then I was sitting in Delhi with one of my like we were a group of researchers in a very like one of the best colleges in India, and I was sobbing, and I'm telling them about what is happening in life, and we're having lunch, and I'm sobbing. And this one person who's like a 60-year-old researcher is like, come, I'll give you a hug, and you'll, feel better. And he I think
Was it me or was it you?
I
Now you're
think
back.
it was me. Apologize. Yeah.
No, that's all right.
And he said that, I can feel a lot of pain in your abdomen. Maybe, you should take a hot water bath with salts. It'll help you clean your chakras. I'm like, chakras, I've heard it in movies. Like, does this thing really work? But I had like, I could not like, I was like, there's no harm in trying if someone is saying it, and
You're
because
already
nothing
so low. What are you going to do? You have to try, right? I mean, you're going to open yourself up to see what comes your way.
nothing seems to be working out, so probably I'll give this a shot. And I ended up reading a book, like, because we've all grown up listening to like stories from the Vedas from our grandmothers and mothers. So but this was the first time I ended up reading a book on chakras by this writer called Harish Johari, and I finished that book in one day, and that was my first literature on. And we've been
In
talking
the
about
world.
chakras today a lot.
Yeah,
And
I know.
and then we sort of, at the same time, we were looking at like a story which can tie around our entire brand, like that one thing that will stick. Like coming from the design background and marketing background that I had, I knew that we needed a story that can stick to the brand for the rest of the journey of the brand. And
Beautiful.
we ended up exploring chakras, and then we landed up Samudra Manthan, and it sort of resonated with what we were going through. And like one of the thing I remember, we were on a call, and we were discussing the story of Samudra Manthan. And so Tejasvi and I, we were talking, and so out of the 14 things that came out of the Samudra Manthan, one was also poison. So we sort of draw that analogy that before good things come out, the that churning process takes you, and it brings out all your insecurities, your fears, and whatever is deep down
Shadows
there.
and demons and
Yeah, and we were like, definitely, maybe it gave us some hope that probably this is our churning process, and we'll have to keep consistently be on this journey, and the good things will come out of it.
wow.
And then we delve deeper into literature, and I mean, we felt that these are stories that are so relatable with our lives, and yet people don't know about it. And maybe these stories should come out, and maybe people will be able to deal with the challenges better, because I think COVID shook the humanity as a whole, and we were all living in so much of fear with the numbers rising. And I think we were at that, we can die any moment. Like humanity hadn't witnessed anything like that before. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I
listen,
mean,
I want to tell you a story. I want to tell you a story about
sure.
sacred startups because I think this is a beautiful time to sort of, connect on. I think, so you see the logo of sacred startups on your screen, right?
Yeah.
So this is basically, we're talking about chakras and we talk about all of these things. And one of the things that people talk about is that the Kundalini energy, right? So the Kundalini energy is basically a coiled up energy like a serpent in 3.5 coils. And then when it starts to rise, it starts to move through different chakras, and then it starts to create different kinds of movements in life when you're crossing through these chakras. Um, so when a Kundalini energy passes through the heart chakra, right, is where they say that the expression from the heart comes out, the compassion, the authenticity, and most importantly, feeling the sort of connection that you establish with the rest of the humanity, rest of people, rest of nature and everything around you. And then whatever you create from it comes from a place of complete authenticity and completely from a place of from your heart. So this whole sacred startups logo, if you see, is basically the Kundalini energy passing through the heart chakra, right? And then that makes the serpent, and that makes the S of the sacred startups, and then the heart in between is basically the expression from the heart. So why did I sort of choose to say this is because that sort of is the ethos of what we are trying to create, right? I mean, finding ways to give the heart an opportunity to express, and finding ways to making sure that whatever you're building continues to come from a place of authenticity and comes from a place of heart and compassion. So, yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that coming from marketing, coming from design, you've been able to sort of bridge all of these different worlds together in creating what you've created. And now, in order for us to sort of share with people and what you've created, I want to sort of switch gears now and talk about quickly. You've taken a particular sort of a hymn. Is it? It's a hymn or a Rig
Yeah.
Veda?
So we
It's
landed up.
Adek. What does it mean? What is this? Just tell us a story quickly about how are you taking the brand and what the philosophy is talking about and how are you extending it?
So we landed up on this hymn of the Rig Veda, which is called the Nasadiya Sukta. And so we were looking at a starting point, and this particular hymn, it talks about the universe's creation 13.8 billion years back in time. And this felt like a perfect starting point for our first collection. So, which is And then the next challenge for us was finding someone as crazy as us to believe in the idea of integrating Vedic principles into something which is like tangible and giving that justice to the entire Vedic concept. And that is we were great. We were lucky enough to find someone. I think Ishita is watching me right now, and I have never told her this, but what she's done with the entire hymn and how she's translated into the pieces of furniture that we have today, it is. I am very grateful, and it is the most beautiful version of
So
this.
how did it happen? Because, obviously a hymn or a piece of music or anything, from an inner world perspective, is creating certain movements. It's creating certain, sensations, if I may call it, a very commonly used term in meditation practices. And some of those sensations also sort of kindle a few emotions, right? And those emotions, if it is strong enough, wants to come out in some shape or form, right? Either it is coming out for a musician through a piece of music, or somebody who's a sculptor, it comes out in the form of a sculpture. For us it came out in the form of sacred startups, and for you it's come out in the form of a furniture, right? So walk us through what is this, what has come out, what are these furniture, what does it mean, what is it in, what does it sort of create as an atmosphere or as an experience? Walk us through this idea.
So, the journey, like this hymn, talks about how everything emerged from that one supreme consciousness, which is they call Tadekam. Tadekam in English translates as that one. So it says that there was that only one thing, one consciousness that was there. And it takes how that consciousness had a desire. And how we say that desire is the cause of human suffering, but in the end when you read that text, it says that the entire cosmic creation started from this one thing called the desire, and then how that desire manifested itself and how that manifestation process happened. And in the end it says that maybe everything that is around us is an illusion. Maybe whoever wrote that hymn, like the hymn contradicts itself. It says that I came after the creation. I don't know whether the creation happened like this or not. So we broke down that hymn into this 7 stages journey, where we start from the first piece being consciousness, then desire, then manifestation, then hurdle, and how you have hurdles on your journey of manifestation. And then you sort of, it talks about yeah. Yeah, so consciousness, which is like a very free flowing, so it's like all the pieces are in the sequence, which takes you on a journey of how the universe uh, got created from the consciousness, and then how it had a desire, and then how it manifested itself into so these are like 7 pieces in your lounge area. If you're on mute, if you're saying something.
Sorry, I've been talking, so it's on mute. Haha, sorry. No, I was asking you, walk us through what is this piece of furniture designed to do in, let's say, for example, in my living room.
So this is a side table. So this is meant to be a conversation starter. Like the whole idea was that people don't talk about the things that are actually important, and so the idea is to make these pieces as a conversation starter in your living room. And all these pieces are supposed to be like all these 6 pieces are a part of your living area, like the coffee table and the console table, and then the armchair, the couch. So when kept, all the pieces when kept together, they are like a story of how the universe got created, with each piece telling, like, for this particular piece, if I talk about it, the okay, I'll talk about this one.
Hurdle? You want hurdle?
Yeah, hurdle or harm. So it was a very debatable thing where, hurdle sort of goes like a negative connotation with such a positive vibration that we're trying to create. But that journey of manifestation that we all go through, it's like full of hurdles, and it is important to address those. So this chair sort of is that chair where you could just sit on it, and it's a reminder in your times of hurdle where you're in a dilemma that, whether I should do this, whether I should do that. And then it gives you sort of space to contemplate on. And if you see the back, I mean, it's cutting here, but the back is sort of like short, and the seating space is larger. So it says that, to plan that bigger leap in life, you have to sometimes take a step back. So it is okay to like slow down sometimes and plan your bigger leap. So every piece like that has like a message, and which you can relate it to your personal life in whenever, like. So the idea is that it's like all these pieces are like your companions in your times of darkness, or uh, I mean, not sure if darkness is the right word, but
No, it can be, because, I mean, listen, there is a reason why people say, oh, go and write journals. Or, there are ways in which, especially the earlier conversation in the day that we were having was about how to use art to heal. How do you sort of, how do you sort of take a piece of your own experience, life experience, and store it in something physically as a form that can trigger, or sort of become a catalyst in a way for you to get back to the spaces that you came from? Because it's a huge thing when you are on the path of, let's say, I'm guessing some CEO sitting on this chair and then forgetting the fact that this person has come from wherever he or she has come from. The fact that this piece of furniture sits in your office or is in your living room is a way for you to constantly keep on remembering, or rather it reminds you of the times that you've come by, the values that has led you to this place. And in sacred startups kind of a context, losing sight of what exactly you're here to do, right, is so easy. In any entrepreneurial journey for that matter, but more so in a sacred startups kind of a setup, is because the profound experiences of consciousness is mostly very relevant and strong when you're really going through hard times, right? When your times are becoming better, times are very, sometimes it's very easy for us to forget about the fact that, what led me to this point. What, even in my own situation, when we were researching and building all of these things, sometimes to lose sight of the reason why you started on this journey is a part of the process, is a part of what is called as the illusion. So having something which is an altar that you carry, or as a piece of art that is with you, or something that you want to tie around, or a tattoo that you get, is all basically a way of reminding yourself of certain important elements and aspects of your life that brought you to where you are. So having a furniture do that, and if you're able to sort of express and communicate it in an efficient way, why this piece of furniture is important to you, it's a beautiful reason why this furniture should exist in this world, right? I mean, according to me, if I had the means to, and a place to sort of get a piece of furniture instead of going to an IKEA, I might as well get something like this, because it has meaning, it has purpose, and also, most importantly for me, what excited me the most is, it's not an expression of your mind, or not an expression of your desire alone. It's a manifestation of the journey that you've taken, the manifestation of the darknesses that you've dealt with and the challenges that you've gone through, which has now come out and inspired the journey of arriving at creating Sarvatva, or this particular collection that you guys are creating, is coming through a journey of self-discovery, right? And that journey of self-discovery is very profound. And if anybody gets to have a piece of that furniture in their living room, they're not only buying a piece of furniture, but they're also buying a piece of that, self-realization, self-exploration journey of an entrepreneur, of a creator, or an artist, whoever that it is. So listen, from that perspective, I feel like these kinds of ideas, these kinds of ventures need to exist, and at the same time, you need to sacred startups needs to exist to provide spaces for these kinds of ideas to come out seamlessly, and without having to worry about will somebody understand my story or not. I think I'm hoping and I'm praying that the audience who's sitting and watching this, and the family that we're going to get to build through these sacred startups, will encourage more of these stories to come out. They'll probably take more inspiration from stories like yours to go out and do something on their own. So yeah, listen, we are sort of running out of time, but I'm just going to sort of take the next couple of minutes for you to finish the story and tell us anything that you would like to say, which you might have missed out or I might have not touched on.
No, I think we've covered everything.
We have.
What
is the next step for Sarvatva?
So we're right now we're in the manifestation phase of that one person who would actually, these pieces will reach whose living room. So we're in that search of that person who would be very grateful to have these pieces in their living room. So we're right now in that profound search of that person.
If I'm sorry to put you in a spot, Srini, but this might be something that is a very good thing to have in an industrialist's home. You might want to meet up with Iteesha later on and see if you would like to take up that furniture offer. I'm creating a sale opportunity here. Srini, you're online, by the way. You're live. If you can hear me. So Srini, by the way, he's a serial entrepreneur who's also our next speaker, a very successful industrialist who's moved on from solving problems of the outer world to now solving problems for the inner world. And he is a man who's I think I really love his story, because he decided that I've taken all my skills and all my experiences and I'm now going to invest in solving something more profound than a simple transactional problem that most of the people end up solving, especially serial entrepreneurs. I think, Srini, you should get that furniture. All right, listen, that was me putting you in a spot, but it's, I think, it's all for a good reason. I hope that spot is turning into a spotlight soon. But Iteesha, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for doing what you do. Tell your story, beat the drums, go to town, inspire as many people as you can. We need more and more people doing what you do. So all the best.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Sorry, Srini, I had to put you in a spot.
Oh, that's I'm used
I know.
to it.
I know.
30 years, I think you've always been on a spot.
I know you would take it in a nice way, so I decided to just sort of pull you in and try to create an opportunity there. Listen, on a lighter note, you might want to sort of look at what Sarvatva is doing, because one of the things that you and I talked about earlier was about how do we sort of create more spaces and create more ways in which we can tell these stories to people who have reached a certain level in the Maslow's hierarchy, if I may call it, who get these kinds of ideas in terms of what this person is trying to express. And I know you're well connected within the network or in the business network, and and maybe anything that you can do to mentor and help these people would be a great deed done for us, at least. Having said that, we are moving to super. Thank you. Having said that, now we're going to move to the last session of the evening. There is a particular reason why we felt that this is a very, very important and an interesting session for us. Apart from the fact that they're already doing some really awesome work as a company, but as an individual, for me, especially what Srini was telling me when I was first talking to him, his story of what he has done and now what he's deciding to do, and the passion that he brings, the skills that he brings. It's almost nothing less of a service in some sorts, right? Yes, it is a business, that he is running, which is very important. But at the same time, at a very subtle level, it's a great sort of a service that he's also doing to the business community. The second thing that I got excited about Srini's story is also how can you actually build a company that works in the subtle space, in the space of energies, in the space of things that are not very obvious to the eyes. And how do you sort of take something like that and turn it into a business, turn it into a company, and successfully run it too, right? Which they are doing right now. So these are some of the reasons that really resonated with me. No doubt the product is great. And I'm sure he's going to walk us through what the product is. Srini is a part of a company called Jiva. Jiva basically manufactures water filtration and purification systems that not only makes the water pure and potable for you to drink, but at the same time, it also sort of carries an energy dimension to it, which is what we've always trying to aspire, and how do we bring in the human spiritual dimension into the products that we build, so that it becomes more human friendly, that it becomes more aligned with the cosmic, so to speak, design of who we are. So having said that, Srini, I'm gonna sort of ask you to give us a quick introduction about who you are and what are you doing, and then I'm going to hand over to you because I know you have a presentation to make.
Who am I? I think you should have actually asked this question to my partner, Dr. Krishna. he would have had a separate session on that.
Some other time then. We can do that too.
Yeah, but I think you kind of summed it up earlier, Sashi. So actually, so just in a nutshell, ran industry for 30 years. It's by let's say, universe's guidance and God's grace, we started post college from the garage and built it to a global entity. And then, when the company grew, it was the manufacturing space, manufacturing auto components. And we were exporting to over 50 countries in the OEM side. So decided to call it a day, because to me, at the top is very lonely and boring. So I love action. So I wanted to start investing in startups, and I don't like the word mentor. So because I think this is my experience, that is their experience. But nevertheless, I think experience teaches you a few things. So I just give them the inputs and saying, looks, this is how it is, and this is what.
Just call it wisdom.
Exactly. and actually, anyway, I'll come to the favorite line later. But so that's what I intend to do before this whole water thing happened. And honestly, Sashi and all, I think you kind of said it right. Even in my dreams, I didn't thought I'm going to do another venture in life. So this was like, even today it surprises me that this came. I think it's like how the universe comes and connects. And I was enamored by what Krishna was doing. We're going to talk about it later, but the energy aspect of water, which is very dear to me. I thought we all drifted, in a journey somewhere. So when someone like Krishna just used this word, when I first met him, he said, I spent 30 years of my life, researching the non-linear behavior of water. I mean, that line itself just caught me. And after that, he went on and on and on, and I realized that there's a different world which you're not able to see, or we're missing out completely in logic. So hence he came back and said, so Srini, we need to do this together, and I don't have the DNA to pull this off at a global level. And I had to think a bit. So reason why I'm here and I'm doing this is what you said in the beginning. What next in life? As I said, it pains me honestly, to be reading and thinking that we are saying that the soil has 30, 40 years of fertility left. I mean, this is terrible. This is truly terrible. And we have really reduced water to a commodity, the way we are drinking and using water. Then I said, okay, so somebody has to start. history is always written later, and this is a great thing one man has done. So hence we are here, started the Jiva journey, which is a journey by itself. The conceptualization started in 2019, but then COVID, and after that, then the devices, which I will talk about later. But that is how I am here, Sashi. So it's essentially, in summary, what as mankind we have moved away. I think you used the word wisdom, right? This is my favorite line. The favorite line is, did we evolve or de-evolve? I strongly believe that we traded our wisdom for knowledge.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
what we are doing is what we are doing with outcomes, poor outcomes.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at it from that perspective, it pains me to say, and it was a very recent realization where I was working on some of this, was how in the name of modernization,
Yep.
as a species, we are reverse evolving in a way, right?
Absolutely.
And it's I know it might seem very altruistic for someone who's listening to this, might say, this is all, nonsensical talk. But honestly speaking, in the grand scheme of things, especially when you're dealing with, in the world of consciousness, time becomes a very different concept. You're not looking at quarters, you're not looking at 10 years, you're not looking at 15 years. You start to think of evolution, you start to think of humanity, you start to think of the species, and then when you look at that, and then the timeline just simply zooms out, and you're looking at a 200, 100, 150 kind of years of timelines. That might just be even a small dot in the timeline of things that consciousness generally deals with. So I
Yes.
completely hear with you, and I think I'm very glad to hear that somebody who's sitting and running a business at that level is able to sort of talk this language and still not feel a bit out of place with it, right? Because most importantly, we are all what we become, by the 5 people that are surrounding us all the time. And be able to stand out amongst these 5 people and use the kind of vocabulary that we use and speak a very different language takes a lot of courage, and at the same time, the willingness to become the black sheep who will eventually be herded out or not, who knows, right? So listen, that's a good segue for me to sort of hand over the stage to you. I know you've got a presentation to make. Why don't you spend more time on talking about what you really are working on and how this whole thing came about? And in fact, we're missing Dr. Krishna on the stage here, but maybe we can sort of walk us through who he is and what he's done. And what we are trying to achieve from this session is how to truly bring passion, realization into form, into giving it form, right? Into a process of actualization, a realization to actualization, and how you sort of ended up turning it into a business, and do it shamelessly, because we need to talk business at the same time as much as we want to talk about things which are not connected to transactions. So let's bring both of those worlds together and see where it goes.
Well, yeah, I think inadvertently, I think you hit the right words. I think, so all the words that you said is actually what I think. You used the word shameless, you used the word, the spiritual side of things, and you had the words where, people have drifted and, everything looks like mumbo jumbo to them. That's the irony. And actually, the way we have modeled and built all this right now, because I belong in all these realms, I've kind of stitched all of this together. So hence I'm able to kind of do this. Actually, from where we left, Sashi, I'm going to do this to all who are present. I'm actually going to have what if actually today the water was talking to us. Just go in that imaginary scene, and I just want you to see this video and see what does it look like if the water was talking. I have Gayatri here who might just pull out the slides. Thanks, Gayatri. If you just pull out that slide on, yeah.
In a world where water is the essence of life, the key to survival, it is time to realize its true value. I am water, and I have lived a long, fruitful life, birthing forests, rivers, oceans, flora and fauna. I have felt bliss, free. But now, I am being forced into a life of pain against my will. I am being pushed into paths I didn't want to take, with toxins, sewage and chemicals being dumped into me, hurting and degrading me. For decades, I have been abused, and my children and everything that was innocently nature have suffered. The balance of nature has been shattered, forests cut, rivers rerouted and filled with toxins, all in the name of progress.
Yeah, I think you just talked about it, right? All in the name of progress. And I just want you also to see this video on where we are today in our journey, what we were with water and what we are today, in terms of where we are. Could you just pull that up, Gayatri?
In a world where water is
Yep, I think this is a hard hitting video, and I think this is a classic thing all of us need to deeply take in. When we are talking about consciousness and water. Before I talk about Jiva, and since we just said, there is one side is spiritual, one side is science. Today we are living in the world of technology, where everything is about logic, and as we start becoming more and more logic, I think we forget the natural things, and even feelings become a rarity. So, the interesting conversations I've had in various of my groups, there is so much that has been said in our scriptures. It's not religion, it's about scriptures. And I want to particularly talk about this for those of you who don't know. In our Yajurveda, right, nothing was said simply in any of these scriptures, right? There was a deep intent. Only thing is, we don't understand the language. In Yajurveda, in Taitranyaka Upanishad, yeah, there is a chapter called Mantra Pushpam. Yeah, this chapter, Mantra Pushpam, there are actually about 8, 10, 12, I don't know how many. There are stanzas, and each stanza is 4 lines. But the beauty is the last 2 lines of every stanza, right? I just want you to hear this.
योपामायतनं वेद आयतनवान् भवति योपामायतनं वेद आयतनवान् भवति.
This, a lot of you might have heard this in some temples or elsewhere. I have heard this, and I'm still again saying that this is not religion. Vedas are not religion. The point is, Krishna asked me, my partner, Dr. Krishna Madhapa, when I met him, he said, Srini, do you know the meaning of this line? I said, I don't know. And when he told me, what it means is, one who understands the true essence of water will understand everything about life. And I will tell you, even now I get goosebumps, and I can tell you that night I didn't sleep. This is very intense, like we don't understand water to that depth. That is the consciousness of water. And he said, when we go there, it's a different world. And that is the world from which water, and even if you come back to scientific stuff on evolutionary theory, ultimately, you have the Cambrian explosion, there was water, and life sprang from water. I think we all know this. And our cells, basically, exchange communication, in the medium of water. This all of us know. All of us are made of trillions of cells, and each cell replicated, which had the wisdom to produce me, to produce you, produce the organs. And the medium of communication was water, because we all know that we are predominantly water. And hence, to now come back and, one side we are talking about consciousness in water, the other side we are talking about commoditizing water. And we have come to the logical world of looking at water as H2O. It is H2O, but it's way deeper than that. So I just want to weave this into a particular thing. I don't know how many of you are aware of this. We are all living in this universe, and how is the universe maintaining this whole balance? How we are able to breathe, survive, live, and talk and do all that. The 5 elements of nature, in spirituality, scriptures, they call it Panchabhutas. In normal parlance, we call it 5 elements of nature. These 5 elements, there is something called, Panchikaranam. Some of you may know, some of you may not know. But this is how they actually maintain the balance in nature. Which is what? Which is every molecule. If you take the energetic of a molecule of, let us say, water, it retains half of that energy to itself. The balance half, it splits into 4 parts and shares it with the other 4. And each of the other 4, do the same thing. And hence, all of them are like fractals. They're like intertwined into each other, which is what actually Mantra Pushpam in essence talks about. And the process of Panchikaranam is where, they are counterbalancing for all the what is the right word? All the, let's say, I don't think we're exaggerating with all the evils we are doing to water, the way we are abusing it, right? So this system, is what makes the water conscious. And all the 5 elements are conscious because, to me, when we say conscious, now what is conscious, right? Now, if I am when I am living, when there is life, there is consciousness, and when there is life, there is breath, right? So which means when we breathe, there is consciousness. So there is consciousness in breath, and there is breath in consciousness. So when we talked about life and life energy, actually, a lot of questions came, because like we said, we have drifted so much into logic. These questions came, and I just want you to see this. Actually, I just posted this on Instagram, a month ago on life energy. Just play that.
So I've been seeing a lot of ads on Jiva that says life energy is restored in this water. Me or my folks is not able to understand what this life energy concept is. Can you please explain what this is? What is life energy?
Life energy. So actually, why is life energy so tough to understand? Right now you're alive, you're doing something, which means there is energy, there is life. So if you're dead, then you're not doing anything, right? So which means where is life, where is energy? Same thing with water. Same thing with water when you're actually saying that the water needs to perform. Reason why you're drinking water. So if the water needs to perform, it needs to have energy, which is equal to life. So life energy in water is what our cells require. As simple as that.
Yeah. So sometimes, they say that, the toughest ones are the simpler truths. Yeah. So this concept, as we saw, how the water is now being abused in the first video of how the contamination. So actually, if I just now fast forward to Krishna, Dr. Krishna, which you brought up and said, who's Dr. Krishna and what he did. So Dr. Krishna Madhapa, so he actually he's lived, last 50 years here. We'll not play the video now. So this is Dr. Krishna, and he lives in the US in a place called Taos in New Mexico. I must say that I'm like, I consider myself very honored to have met somebody like Dr. Krishna. The kind of gentleman he is and what he has done in life and how down to earth he is. I mean, he has chaired sessions with Nobel laureates, shared the dais, and he's had interactions with some of the top names in the world. And when you meet him, he's so down to earth. And he, like I said, just spent his life on measuring the non-linear aspect of water. So what he did was, when he talked to me, he said, how he measured the life energies of water across the world, and he saw that how depleted the energies were. These are a special equipments, called GDVs, which is a exclusive instrument that they use, and his contemporaries in that field have made them. So I just want you to see this a very hard-hitting finding that Krishna is talking about.
During my initial studies exploring the mysterious behavior of water, this was during the 90s in my lab in Taos, New Mexico, we observed very, very diverse patterns that the waters exhibited. So using electrophotonic technology, where we measure very high level of detail in the response of water, we gathered water samples from various households across the world. And what we observed that they were highly depleted in energetic content. Whereas waters from rivers exhibited a very high quanta of energy.
Oh, so this was mind blowing to me because the concept of we call them Jiva Nadis in India, and so the life energy Jiva, and then we see this, and when he first showed it to me, so actually one of these measurements, I was at a friend's house and I was watching the measurement live, and actually okay, just to give you the background, so this is they just supply a 10 kilowatt discharge, and then to a drop of water that is suspended, and they measure the intensity of photons and the ability of the water to hold it, and that is how they measure it. And there's a formula, there's a deep formula, and then the output. So this is a 5-second measurement in 5 frames. Actually, it's a 25 frames, 5 FPS for 5 being 25 frames. And this is what I saw. And after Krishna had told me this is what we are doing, in my friend's house, actually, I didn't even saw what we saw in the first bit, which was a household. I just saw a straight line. It was just dark. It was like in an ICU, you just see a straight line, which means, you're not there anymore, you're dead. That is what I saw, and I almost held my chair. I asked him, I still remember asking him, I said, Krishna, are you serious? Is this the kind of water we are using? And he said, Srini, this is what I've seen across the world. Now comes the important aspect of what Krishna did after that and where we are today. So Krishna, actually having seen this, now I'm going to split it into his journey. This was the first 10 years of fundamental research, and when he's realized that this is what is happening to the waters, then he said, is there any way we can restore this life energy in water? Actually I call it the resuscitation. If somebody had a heart attack, you just artificially resuscitate that person. That is the state of water where we are in today. And so what Krishna did was, so he said, if I have to do something about this, I need to get closer to nature. I need to understand. I think today, we've seen videos of how plants talk to each other, the frequency and vibration, with which they exchange. Thus came, the water in nature, they all communicate. What is that language? Is what, he was attempting to understand. And that is where he spent a lot of time. And where he, at some point, identified this frequency and vibration at which they communicate. And his next endeavor was, like today we have our mobile phones. For those of you, who belong in the, like me, who belong in the era of, landlines. I think mobile phone was like one hell of a technology. But today we sit, in America and operate our door locks from, in India using the mobile phone. So what Krishna did was, this is nature's technology. So he actually did his effort to bring this entire frequency vibration bit inside a device. And his endeavor was, now, if this water, which has lost its life energy or depleted, goes through, can it revive? And lo and behold, so actually Krishna has been advisor to various water companies in the world. I'm talking about 15 plus 20 years kind of time frame, where he's seen all this. And ultimately, cut to chase, where we are today, when he met me, when I saw this, and when I met him, much later, when I had sold my company, and then I had some time frame and mental space, I said, Krishna, this is what you need to take it to society. And when so much of all the con jobs are being sold, and I think this is time that you should do it. And I said, the way one has to approach to create global social impact, we need to really, either you have to be a government, or you really need to plan a proper venture. Otherwise this is not going to happen. And that is what actually we did. So anyway, like I said earlier, I was only planning to just be advised, whatever, in that capacity. But when Krishna said, no, Srini, let's do it together, but I can't pull it off myself because my DNA is a scientist DNA. And I said, yes, and this is what we did. So what we did was, we created a range of devices, right? And now I'm going to talk about, post all that, when my first prototype was ready, let's say it's about 2.5 years before, we decided, so all said and done, now, when the first Jiva device, that's why we called it Jiva, aptly, Jiva, soul, Atma, life, and then we said, now let us see what this can do. So I was jittery. So what we did was we gave the first device, to a farmer. So we said, let us test it in agriculture. Human beings, can be subjective. So agriculture, you'll get the direct, input. And what we did was we gave the farmers, the devices and said, split your plot into two. One side just use normal water, the other side you use Jiva. Anyway, there is nothing added, nothing removed, no electricity. So just fit it to your outlet. Everything else being the same, sowing to seeds to the soil, all right. When they gave it, the first feedback started coming almost less than a month. And I must tell you this before you can watch this video, where one of the farmers in Belgaum is who called me first. And he said, sir, I don't understand. They were legacy farmers. He said, this is phenomenal. He said, he grew watermelon. And in 6 months, the 6-month crop, he said, this side, he said, I'm seeing 27 roots. And this side, he said, I'm seeing 62 roots. And the root length, has changed. He said, root length is longer on the Jiva side. And he was asking me, what do you think has happened? And which actually means in simple biology, how the root will now communicate with soil, and hence soil microorganisms will start building because the root soil communication, then the plant communication. And then he said, sir, this side I got 6 tons, this side I got 11 tons. So which means 5 tons more in half the plot in 6 months. And 1 ton was about 15,000, even in terms of commerce. It was 75,000 rupees to the bottom line on a 25,000 rupee device he purchased, and he put it. So if you do the math, it will turn out to be a 3 lakhs for a farmer, per annum. What else is farmer welfare, which all governments are talking about? It is just there right in front of us. So I just want you to, because this will be a long story, we may not have so much time, but there is a small 1.5 minute we have done to just take you through the impact that it has created across all users, which will be self-explanatory. So just play that impact video, Gayatri.
During my initial study,
Next. Oops. Am I?
I started using the Jiva water only. So ಆ ತರದ ಹೆಡ್ಏಕ್ ಸಿವಿಯರ್ ಹೆಡ್ಏಕ್ಸ್ ಯಾವುದು ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ.
ஃபாஸ்டிங் சுகர் மட்டும் கொஞ்சம் ஜாஸ்தியாக இருந்தது. 125 120 இருந்தது வந்து 102க்கு 100 லெவலுக்கு அவங்களுடைய ஃபாஸ்டிங் சுகர் லெவல் வந்தது.
I was actually suffering from acidic issues since about 3 years, and I did have to pop a couple of pills, and then I was introduced to Jiva, and once I started using that, I was able to sleep peacefully without any pills.
I've started using it from the past 1.5 years now, so I have noticed a lot of changes in my health issues, especially in my migraines and my gastric issues.
I started to feel internally very good, and I feel like I didn't feel as dehydrated as I did before.
ಮನೆನೂ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಉದ್ದು ಬೆಳೆದಿವೆ ಮತ್ತು ಒಳಗೆ ಜ್ಯೂಸಿ ಪ್ರಮಾಣನೂ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿದೆ.
ಜೀವ ವಾಟರ್ ಕುಣಿಸಿದ ಬಿಳಿದಾಗಲ್ರಿ ಸೂಸ್ ಮಣ್ಣಾಗಲ್ರಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಜೀವ ವಾಟರ್ ಕುಣಿಸಂದ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಸೂಸ ಆಗ್ತೈತ್ರಿ ಮುಂದೆ ಬಿಳಿದಾಗ್ತೈತಿ ಸರ್.
ಮಣ್ಣಿನ ವಾಸನೆ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಕೂಡ ಇದ್ರದ್ದು ಮಣ್ಣಿನ ವಾಸನೆ ಬೇರೆ ಐತಿ, ಆ ಮಣ್ಣಿನ ವಾಸನೆ ಬೇರೆ ಐತಿ.
ರೂಟ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟು ಜೀವದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಸ್ತ್ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ನೋಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲಿ. ಬಟ್ ನಾನ್ ಜೀವದಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಡಿಮೆನೇ ಇದೆ. ಬಟ್ ಇವನ್ ಬಂಚ್ ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಆನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಅವರೇಜ್ ತೊಗೊಂಡಾಗ ನಾವು ಈಗ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ವೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಒಂದು ಜೀವ ಇದ್ದದ್ದು 2.5 2.5 kgs ಬಂತು, ನಾನ್ ಜೀವ 1.6 kgs ಬಂತು.
Yeah. So these are all genuine feedbacks where people have reached out themselves. I mean, that this is an impact venture, and people have reached out to just unadulterated, undiluted. Just only thing we edited was longer videos, shorter, and clipped it together. And we have tons of such videos, so which is clearly evident. So I'm just going to just say two more things before I leave it back to Shashi. The one thing, so most of the questions, I mean, a lot of FAQs, but essentially, the questions used to be around, we have a philosophy, we have an outcome, which is straightforward. So I always used to say, when in a world we are stuck in pH, TDS, alkaline, the buzzwords is very superficial. My question was, do we even know what to measure in water? With all these measurements, you only messed up everything. So maybe we don't know what to measure in water, but that was a missing link for us, because we saw an outcome, we saw the philosophy in the Jiva device, it was all fine. But what is that is changing in water? What is the answer that eluded me? I didn't have an answer, but fortunately today, as I'm talking, the University of Life Sciences in Czechoslovakia, Prague, so they have done a paper has been already presented, and the formal paper should come out. So there, they have said they tested the water, normal water, and the same water passed through Jiva, through with nuclear magnetic resonance and using Fourier transformation infrared spectroscopy. With that, a professor of very high pedigree, he has already gone on video to share this, to say that, Srini, what has changed in Jiva water is there is something called hydrogen bridging. He said this has become stronger in Jiva. And he said the strength of the hydrogen bridge, probably that is what is a bond, but the strength of the hydrogen bridge, water is defined as a universal solvent. So he said the water qualifies to be called a universal solvent only when the bridges are strong. And that is why, you're seeing your outcomes, because the cell membrane allows the water to penetrate only when the bridge is strong. So this was a wow moment for us, because I thought, we just got the Holy Grail just descended and, gave us saying, this is what is happening, water. So this is the whole 9 yards of Jiva. The closing line, the vision, a deep vision. We started this deep vision. For us, by 2035, we want to try and become Jiva, or rather, Jiva water to become the default standard for water in the world. In everything water touches humanity. This is only because I want to leave behind an earth that probably we are going to inherit again. And the closing line is, it's both favorite to me and Krishna, that a Krishna and I alone are not going to be able to bring about this transformation. We all need to be collective torchbearers to herald this transformation. And among all of us who are on this call, or through our connections, I think reaching that one layer, the 1% layer on top, who can influence the entire population, is not too tough to get. And I'm leaving it there to say, be it impact, being impact based. We are not very, very, looking for urgent investments, but investments will be, because these are, when we are talking about sacred startups and business, this is from that side. The next big thing is water, and is expected to be a trillion dollar opportunity. And truly where we are, I'm not biasing or mixing words, and we are going to do that in stages. Any of that, happy to engage and happy to discuss if it comes along with impact. To me, consciousness, quantum. Actually, I don't know, Sashi, can I just take another minute?
Yeah, please.
Just because I said myself quantum, I just want to talk about this, the most misunderstood word. Just pull up that quantum slide, Gayatri. Yeah. What is quantum? Nature, all of us are living a life of quantum. This is the simplest example. Classical science starts at a molecular level, goes up to subatomic level. Quantum science starts from subatomic level and goes downward. The downward is an unfathomable territory. So last year's Nobel Prize for Physics 2023 was given for generation of photonic pulses in an attosecond. And what is an attosecond? 1 followed by 18 zeros. And just for a short digression, I was talking to an ancient scholar that I know, and he said, no, these are all written in Ascriptas. What Nobel Prize you're talking about? He said, no, not you are talking about 1 followed by 18 zeros. Our scriptures talk about 1 followed by 1300 zeros. So this 1 second, imagine 18 zeros there and forget about 1300 zeros. So to me, time is a continuum, life is a continuum, and there is a flow, and that is the information which water is living in nature, and just by going through Jiva, it is regaining that level, and hence our cells are happy to get this water. Hence, we are seeing all these outcomes. We can go on. We can go on for 2 days, but now
I
I
know.
think I'll stop.
Unfortunately, I had a bunch of questions that I wanted to ask you, but I'm going to hold back because I think we have, so much information today to process from the speakers before you and what you've given us. And I think we have one last one to come after you as well. But this is amazing, and the delivery has been, to the point, at least from a Sacred Startups perspective. The message is loud and clear that you can bring in ancient wisdom into modern science, and then you can turn them into an entrepreneurial venture. My single point of motivation when I decided to get down this path of doing it was, if somebody can be sitting down in some part of the world and selling, I don't know, inactive wear, to the world, and can do it with so much confidence and so much aggression and so much ambition, why can't people like us who want to do something for the state of consciousness be equally aggressive, equally driven, and equally ambitious of what we want to achieve? I think in the past, in history, a lot of us have been very sort of holding ourselves back when it comes to the area of consciousness, because we don't want to go out and talk about it in the same breath as business, or in the same breath as as a venture. But I think we might want to move on from that fixation of not being productive with the sense of consciousness that you sit with. So thank you for doing what you do. Love to Dr. Krishna. Unfortunately, he's not here with us today, but I'm hoping that he's sitting and watching it somewhere. And if he is, thank you for doing what you do. Srini, I have to take you out of this stage right now, but I really, really thank you for doing what you do.
My pleasure, Shashi, and thanks for saying whatever you said. Yeah. We'll connect.
Have a good night.
separately.
We will definitely connect.
Thanks all of you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay. Loaded day. I think this is the last one. I'm going to bring in Joshua, and I'm also going to bring in Ashish. Ashish, Joshua is open mic, I'm guessing. Open house, I'm guessing.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Joshua, I have no idea what you're going to talk about, but I'm all curious to hear what you're going to tell us. How frequency can restore health. Beautiful. We can hear you, Joshua. You can start.
Sorry, is it me or
trying to be outside?
No, I think it's him. Find a place with some network, Joshua, maybe?
Yeah.
Find the frequency that restores your Wi-Fi connection.
Inside, we don't have Wi-Fi yet.
I think we need to find frequency. It's loud and clear.
Sorry, I just get feedback. What did I put up here?
All good, all good. You've been running around. There you go. What a day, I mean, like.
I'm jumping between complete, completely activated, and my mind coming to a point of saturation and saying, we lost him. No, he's here.
Yeah, all right.
You're live. Do you want to start speaking? We'll give it a couple of minutes. If we cannot get Joshua on our stable connection, I think we might have to end the sessions.
Okay.
Oh, he is.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Go
I'm ready.
ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, listen, I'll speak quickly, just a few minutes. First of all, I want to thank you for this forum. I think Sacred Startups is almost the missing link, because I'm speaking to you from New York City. We have such a vibrant ecosystem of startups, and they're really just focused on making more money. And they're taking the best, the most creative minds we have and just focused on some sort of small innovations. And I think there's a whole other world of people who are really focused on the sacred, on the spiritual, on health, and not sort of just more medicine, but actually integrative health using nature and what we really have, and restoring the knowledge that we had from so many hundreds of years ago. My background is as a newspaper man. I was a Financial Times foreign correspondent. And when I was overseas, I developed a terrible parasite, and it tore through my liver for about 15 years. And no doctor really knew anything to help me. And I found an acupuncturist who had been a computer scientist. And he introduced me to this world of frequency medicine using technology developed in Russia that was really able to sort of replicate the millimeter wavelengths of your cell and restore your body to homeostasis. And I was sort of intrigued by it. I was investing a lot of money in having these machines. And I moved to a neighborhood that had a lot of senior citizens. And I was basically in my apartment running a line of people to use the machines. We were really healing a lot of people with it. And I thought maybe the most sort of significant thing about it was learning that so many people are misdiagnosed by their doctors and are living with sort of a fake sickness. I mean, and many people were having serious cancers and blood disorders and all sorts of things sort of attributed to them, when in reality, these were like much smaller bacteria infections that were easily fixed using frequencies. And when I saw the agenda today, and I've been following a lot about water knowledge, because it turns out that water is really the medium that you can use to transport these frequencies. And these machines in particular can then impart, the inverse frequency of your sickness into a glass of water, and you can drink it and absorb it. But, before you can understand that, you have to understand what, companies like Duygu Water are actually doing. They're actually structuring the water, and it's actually becoming a carrier of information. And I think in the past 100 years, this knowledge has sort of been redeveloped, but it's been lost. It really is lost. I mean, almost no one here has ever heard of it. But what it means is that if you can restructure your water, your body's organism is more powerful to accept that water. So rather than just sort of water going through your system, the water is actually literally hydrating all your organs. And you can see the restoration in health. I mean, all these testimonials they just played are really accurate. People suddenly have a much more vibrant energy, much stronger health. A lot of the sicknesses themselves are just going away with the water. And well, anyway, my mission really has been to create this magazine, and in doing so, I was able to interview a lot of these real scholars in this field, and learning what some of the experts are doing with water is really outstanding. I mean, there's one expert here who was able to transform barren planting fields into vibrant fields without using any mechanical installations at all. He actually was able to use it using salt and his understanding of structured water, because it's just the takeaway is that so much modernity is like a industrial chemical fix for something that has a natural solution. Anyway, so we started creating this magazine called Resonant Frequencies, resonant.fr. It's going to be launched very soon. We started, the goal was to put in all the information we could find. So all the medical journal papers, all the books about it, everything that's been written, and then hired a team of doctors to review this technology and review the scientific journals for layman readers. But what's just really happened really just this past week, that's why I'm calling you from a new office, is I was asked, my little home setup, I was asked to treat someone who they thought had cancer. And this is the sister-in-law of an acupuncturist. And we kind of, quote unquote, cured her because she didn't have breast cancer at all. She really just had some bugs in her body that were giving her a lot of problems. And after that session, this acupuncturist said, listen, I want you to open a clinic. Can you take all your machines into this, this 4-room acupuncture clinic and train my staff and now have basically, people experiencing this, people getting healed by this. And just in the last few days, it's been really wonderful to meet with these kind of people who've never heard about this kind of technology, to have an opportunity to explain it. And I'll just sort of bring it back to the idea of sacred businesses, and then I can really answer questions about anything in this field. But to me, it's, my purpose for a long time was explaining, complex ideas with words and numbers. And I did it for Financial Times and for CoinDesk. And I had to take a break when the newspaper business fell out. I had to work for companies. And as soon as I could, I got back into media, but then media itself has changed. It's really just become about promotion, and even the politics doesn't have the real truth in it that it used to have. So for me to find this kind of space of entrepreneurs striving to bring, the sacred is a word, but sort of bring the completion of their own personas into the businesses they're doing, with all these businesses aiming at helping people, and as someone Jewish, for 115 generations of rabbis, to me, to be able to restore this wisdom that we had, to bring back like this sacred knowledge from our forefathers and merge it with the powers of technology today, and sharing it, being a wireless phone to new colleagues calling me from the other side of the world. I mean, this has really been a blessing for all of us to be involved in it. I just really want to thank you for organizing it, and I hope to be a resource for anyone who needs
Oh,
to learn more about
absolutely.
exercise or questions.
Thank you for jumping in and sharing this story with us. I think these kinds of random encounters are the reason why we kept it as an unconference and not as a conference, because this is an open, grounds up people kind of a movement, instead of sort of setting an agenda and pushing things down from top. Listen, there are so many things that I want to ask you. There are so many sort of ways in which I think I can bring out some of these things that you're talking about. Very detailed, extended sort of a session. If it's possible for you to reach out,
Please.
to one of us, we will try and see how we can bring you on to one of these sessions in the next couple of days that is left, and maybe sort of unbundle this story in a detailed way, so that we have more time to really hear about this, because this is true story in action, and I think I want to do justice to this story.
That'd be wonderful.
So either it's me or Ashish or any one of us, if you can reach out through an email or whatever it is, we will quickly see what we can do in the next couple of days to bring your story out.
That'd be great. I'm actually treating a family here. This is someone we treated yesterday in this clinic, and now they're coming back with their children tomorrow.
Now,
I don't know if it's going to.
I'm particularly interested in how this device works, and especially when you talked about the misdiagnosis of cancer and how this thing sort of ended up solving that problem is particularly what I'm very
I'll
interested
speak
in.
on that for a minute. I mean, I call myself on the murderer's row over here, which is First Avenue in Manhattan, and I have to travel 25 blocks to get here, and it's by half a dozen of the world's specialists in cancer treatment. And the big lie is that, I say it's the big lie, it's the big money-making opportunity for them, is that this person we saw yesterday was debating if they really could confirm their cancer, they would pay $50,000 to go to a treatment facility. There was nothing showing cancer in their body. Literally, they had a scar on them. There was an x-ray that showed the scar kind of. I'm like, that's scar tissue, and bacteria forms on scar tissue. It doesn't mean there's cancer. And I mean, the cancer question is one that's plagued the Western world for almost 100 years. When it was
it's happening everywhere now.
That said, something that said only radium and then chemotherapy could be used to treat cancer. And those basically are the two greatest poisons. And then the cancer itself is being diagnosed like left and right for everybody. When the reality is, and this is what Dr. Reif knew in the 1920s, is that cancer is created in many cases by bacteria. And if it's not bacteria, then it's by a chemical pollutant that you're being exposed to in your environment. But in most cases, it's bacteria. You're feeding the bacteria. The cancer itself is a shield around that bacteria to prevent it from leaking into your body. And when the doctor comes to cut through it, he exposes the body to the poison again. So it's,
I hear
You
you.
know,
This is
the
a
truth
this
is
is a
that
very sensitive area, right? I
it's
mean,
very
there are so
sensitive. I mean, the
many.
truth is, it's
Yeah.
everyone's business now. But the real truth is, for people listening to the show, the bacteria in your body can be stopped in many ways. And the number one way, sorry to tell you guys, it's by food. And the way that the world works is by energy from the sun goes into green plants, and you eat those plants, you're getting that energy. If you live on the diet that I had when I was a bachelor, which was fried chicken, French fries, and beer, guess what? That is only feeding the bugs in your body. There's no nutrition. So if we bring ourselves back to the basics, which literally is plants, that energy goes into your body. It avoids the bacteria. The bacteria pretty much get bored of you, and they leave. And then what you can find out is that using magnets, using electricity, and not even the high-tech frequency stuff I'm talking about, using the electricity that Ben Franklin was developing 300 years ago, and that John Wesley of the Methodist Church and Wesleyan University developed in the 1750s. That electricity applied to your body will kill so many bugs. And if the real truth is that it's these bugs that we feed that grow, and that becomes sickness and cancers, well then, everyone on his own can heal themselves using the world's most basic technology. And I'll just bring it back to the water. One of the number one things is to get yourself with some kind of apparatus, either a magnet or a Jiva water, or anything that's going to give you that structured water, because that's going to give your body a huge boost in fighting infections and fighting bacteria and strengthening the organs. And I guess what I was so amazed about it was that, it's something that you can achieve with a machine, but in many cases you can achieve it with magnets. A $10 magnet can give you a boost to your water. And it's not a question of health only for the millionaires, which I think is where we also are in the world right now.
That's true. Listen, Joshua, I really appreciate your passion. You're driven.
Thank
I
you
can
for
see
having me.
that. And thank you for doing what you do. We would love to have you longer than what we've had you right now. Unfortunately, this has been a long day. And I want to sort of take a couple of minutes to end this session. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We will
Thank
reach
you.
out to you, and we're going to find a way to sort of talk more about this. All right?
Hopefully we speak tomorrow morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good morning. You're in New York. Bye.
Yeah, we're only just starting here.
Ciao. All right, that was day 2, people. A long day, I'm sure. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's very hard to sort of, filter, curate, or rather to cut people off, because I know a lot of people are coming here with a lot of passion, with a lot of pain, with a lot of personal life experiences that has given birth to what they do. We do recognize that, and we do appreciate what they're doing. But this is the end of day 2. Thank you so much. And I hope you're going to join us for 2 more days of such intense, beautiful, passionate conversations from people coming from different parts of the world with different perspectives and different life experiences. And I hope it rubs off on you in one way or the other to shift from being an entrepreneur solving for consumption to moving and solving for human consciousness and human inner well-being. So thank you so much for your time. And this is day 2. And this is me, Shashi, signing off. Thank you. Ciao.